It looks like we have 4 commissioners here, so I think we should be good to go. I was looking forward to trying to have a vote this morning. We need to, Elizabeth, I know you weren't here last month. We need to basically vote to have a new head commissioner. I took the duties last month, and I'm happy to do it this month. I know in the next 5 months, there's going to be 3 where I'm not around, and I know historically, we've not had health or police or potentially our veterinary, members be the head commissioner. So, I think we need to look for, I know you and Ed are the 2 senior, citizen members at this point. So I think we need to look into, voting for one of you 2 to take over, at least in the short term. I know that your terms are up soon, but as far as today, let's just get into the cases today. I'd rather, we need to have more commissioners on the board before we can do that anyway. So, like I said, next month, I think I'm not going to be here. Greg's going to represent for me. So, I can let him know how I would vote and everything. So with that being said, I'm just going to go ahead and get started with the cases this morning, unless I know you guys have any questions or comments about that.
No, thank you for your comments, and we can work that out next week, our next hearing, next month.
Okay. All right. So with that, I'm just going to go ahead and get us started for today, and afterwards we'll go over the minutes from last week, and we'll go from there. So, where are we at here? 1 second. All right. So, good morning. You are attending the Animal Matters Commission hearings for May 3rd, 2021. The Animal Matters Commission was established and is conducted in accordance with Article 12 of the Anne Arundel County Code. These administrative hearings, these are administrative hearings, and by nature, they are informal, which means you are not hampered by the rules of evidence. However, please be aware that you are still testifying under oath. Each party will have their opportunity to state their case. After each party states their case, we'll have an opportunity to ask questions of the other party. Please do not interrupt the other party. You will be given ample time to talk. In many cases, we are aware that there is a history. You may briefly tell the commission about the history. However, please focus on the issue at hand. After each case, the commission will have open deliberations. During these deliberations, the public may not participate. If the commissioners have additional questions, you may answer the question. No further information will be heard and a decision will be rendered. This decision is a recommendation to the chief of police or his representative. The recommendation of the commission will be taken into consideration and a final decision will be made by the chief of police or his designated representative. If, as a defendant in the case, you are unhappy with the decision of the commission, you may appeal. For citation cases, appeals may be made through the District Court of Maryland, and for administrative orders, potentially dangerous, or vicious, appeals are heard through the County Board of Appeals. Can you please call the first case?
Yes, sir. Our first case is Animal Care and Control versus Bobby Harrell for the appeal of dangerous order for Mia Moonshine and the appeal of dangerous order for Luke. All parties who have an interest in this case who wish to testify may now come forward to take the oath. If you would please utilize Zoom's raise hand feature, I'll get you added in one by one and get you sworn in together at the end. All right, we've got a Sherry. Hello, ma'am. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you kindly. And if you would please state your name and full address for the record.
My name is Cherie Caroline Spuler, address 520 Valleywood Road, Millersville, Maryland, 21108.
Thank you kindly. Hang out for just 1 second. And Officer Herbert, if I could get you to state your name and address for the record. And let me go ahead and ask you to unmute there.
Better?
Yes.
Officer Herbert, Anne Arundel County Animal Care and Control, 411 Maxwell Fry Road, Millersville, Maryland, 21108.
Thank you kindly. I don't see anybody else with their hand up, but I do see Mr. Harrell in here, so let me get him promoted.
Can you hear us?
Yes, sir. If you would please state your name and full address for the record.
Okay, my name is Bob Harrell, 1870 Generals Highway, Annapolis, Maryland, 21401.
Thank you, sir. Hang out for just a second. I'll get you sworn in a moment. Let's see, I don't see anybody else. Oh,
Al?
ma'am, are you going to testify as well?
Hello? Can you hear
Are
me?
you going to? Yes, ma'am. Are you going?
I plan to testify.
Perfect. If you could give me your name and address.
My name is Al Carroll, and I live at 1870 Generals Highway, Annapolis, Maryland, 21401.
Thank you, ma'am. And let's see. I don't see anyone else with their hand.
You know what? This isn't high enough in the back.
I can turn it around.
Oh, that's true.
That should be it. So once they're settled. Perfect. If I could have everyone who's going to testify raise your right hand. Do you declare and affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Thank you all. And if you would please remain muted unless called upon to speak, and we're good to proceed.
All right. Officer Herbert, if you're ready, present your case.
Good morning, everyone. On Monday, March 22nd, 2021, Anne Arundel County Animal Care and Control's evening dispatcher, Thomas, received a complaint via phone regarding an animal attack. The caller advised that her dog was attacked on Saturday, March 20th, 2021, and wanted to remain anonymous. Dispatcher Thomas advised of the importance of reporting incidences when injuries occur. The complainant called back and advised that she wanted the incident reported and had obtained the owner of the suspect dog's address. The complainant, Ms. Martinez, advised that on Saturday, March 20th, 2021, between the hours of 1 and 2 p.m., her dog Britta, a German Shepherd mix, was in a fenced area behind their garage, and her husband, Joe Martinez, was in the garage and heard a commotion. He ran out behind the garage and found Britta bleeding from her side. The suspect's two dogs, described as Ridgeback type, were in the fenced area with Britta. Mr. Martinez chased the two dogs out of his yard and took Britta to the Anne Arundel Veterinary Emergency Clinic in Annapolis for treatment that required sutures and a drain to repair. Veterinary records were obtained on March 23rd, 2021. On March 23rd, Officer Herbert entered the phone number of 410-320-3497 for BJ. Dispatcher Thomas had obtained that information from the complainant and entered that into the animal control system with results for a Bobby Harrell residing at 1870 Generals Highway in Annapolis, Maryland, 21401. Mr. Harrell owns two black-mouthed curs, Luke, 1-year-old, and Mia Moonshine, approximately 7 years old. Both dogs were found to be licensed to Mr. Harrell. However, neither dog was current on its rabies vaccination, according to our system. Following public safety violations were listed under incidences for history. 10/10/2017, an aggressive animal was reported to have chased the garbage man. March 25th, 2020, there was a bite to a Sherry Spuler while Mia was at large in an office building in the presence of Mr. Harrell. 5/8/2020, a warning letter was issued to Mr. Harrell for Mia Moonshine for the bite to Miss Spuler. 6/20/2020, both dogs were at large and reported to have chased a bicyclist. Sam Lee Thomas Sagrin, sorry about the hacking up of the name, called that into the public safety office. On July 12th, 2020, Supervisor Hall was contacted by Anne Arundel County Lost and Found Pets trying to trace Luke's license tag. Both dogs had returned home. 10/9/2020, both dogs were at large and picked up by Officer Dos Santos, who redeemed them to the owner on the road, issuing 2 citations for running loose. And then on 10/17/2020, both dogs, Mia and Luke, were at large. And by the time the officers responded to Mr. Harrell's address, they were back on the property. 10/23/20, as a result of multiple complaints of Luke and Mia Moonshine running at large and acting in an aggressive manner, daily patrols were begun in the area around the owner's address and the Rolling Knolls community. Officer Herbert contacted Mr. Harrell to advise that due to the history of public safety violations for both dogs, a warning letter that was issued for Maya in 2020 and the most recent incident on March 20th, 2021, when both dogs were running at large and severely injured another domestic animal, Mia and Moonshine and Luke would be impounded at Animal Care and Control during the investigation. Mr. Harrell was not cooperative and he advised he would not be bringing his dogs to the shelter and that Animal Care and Control would have to come and get them. On March 23rd, 2021, approximately 2:15 p.m. in the afternoon, Officer Keegan responded with the assistance of Anne Arundel County Police to the owner's address at 1870 Generals Highway in Annapolis, Maryland, for the mandatory impound of Luke and Mia Moonshine. Mr. and Mrs. Harrell were both present, cooperative, and placed the dogs on the county vehicle. On March 25th, 2021, Bobby Harrell submitted a statement and photo of Britta's injuries after he paid the veterinary bill at Anne Arundel Veterinary Emergency Clinic. Mr. Harrell also sent a photograph of a physical fence that he was currently installing on his property to contain his dogs. On March 29th, 2021, Mr. Martinez, owner of Britta, submitted a statement of fact regarding the incident on March 20th, and I'll read his statement that he submitted. My name is Joe Martinez, and I live at 1842 Shibley Court, Annapolis, Maryland, 21401. I was in my back garage painting last Saturday afternoon on March 20th around 2 p.m. My female German Shepherd, Britta, walked out the back door of the garage and met up with two dogs in my backyard, and I heard dogs fighting. I ran to the back door, and before I got to the door, Britta came whimpering in, and her hair on her left side was disturbed. I examined her side and realized that she was bit from one of the two dogs. The wound was bleeding and I could see red flesh. I quickly put Britta inside the house and ran back to the back door to the garage, and the two dogs were staring at me through the doorway. I chased both of them back over my deck and into my side yard, where they ran onto Shibley Court and disappeared. I called a neighbor who has dealt with these same two dogs in the past, and he told me where the owners lived. I drove Britta to their house and met with Mrs. I showed her Britta's injuries, and she apologized for her dogs getting loose and biting Britta. She said she just got back from picking them up. Someone had called her from my neighborhood. After that, I drove Britta to the emergency vet off of Bestgate Road, and I dropped her off. I picked her up at the emergency vet around 9 p.m. Saturday night. They had to sew stitches in her side and install a drain. After careful review and discussion with supervisors here at Animal Care and Control, due to the public safety violations for both dogs, the warning letter issued to Mia in 2020 and this most recent incident where both dogs were running loose, a dangerous order was issued for both dogs. On March 30th, 2021, Officer Herbert responded to Mr. Harrell's residence at 1870 Generals Highway in Annapolis, Maryland, to issue the orders for Luke and Maya Moonshine, as well as a pre-inspection to assist Mr. Harrell in complying with the order at his property as quickly as possible. On April 1st, Mr. Harrell advised Anne Arundel County Animal Care and Control that he would like to transfer his two dogs to a friend's farm in Kent County, Maryland. The jurisdiction was contacted by myself. I spoke with Director Eric Reynolds for notification for the transfer. Mr. Harrell signed the transfer letter, redeemed Luke and Mia Moonshine, and it was confirmed by Kent County the dogs were on the farm. On April 6th, Mr. Harrell submitted his appeal for the dangerous orders and scheduled for today's hearing. On April 14th, Kent County advised myself that Luke and Mia Moonshine were chasing the cats and ducks at the farm. The owner of the farm requested the dogs be removed. Mr. Harrell then transported the dogs to his sister's residence in Alachua County, Florida. I responded on the same day to Mr. Harrell's residence just to confirm that they weren't there and that he was abiding by the transfer. And I also talked to Alachua County, Florida, where the dogs were residing, to make them aware of the incident. And then on April 23rd, I responded to Mr. Harrell's residence at 1870 Generals Highway for his inspection of the dangerous order. He was in full compliance, photos were taken, and here we are today.
So are the animals back at his house now that they're in compliance, or are they still in Florida?
Mr. Harrell, he was advised they could come back on the 23rd when he passed his inspection.
Gotcha.
Sorry to jump in. I do have Mr. Martinez looking to get sworn in here.
Yeah, let's do that first. I saw that too. Go ahead. Let's get Mr. Martinez sworn in first, and then we'll hear from I want to hear from Mr. Farrell at the animal in the county first, and then then we'll go with Mr. Martinez.
Yeah, let me unmute Mr. Harrell. I think he was answering you. He's just muted. Sir, if you could unmute yourself.
Okay, is that it?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Can you hear?
Can you hear us?
Mr. Harrell, is the animal at your residence now, or is it still in Florida? Or the animal?
Now,
They're there now. Okay, thank you. Now let us get Mr. Martinez sworn in. And mute yourself, Mr. Harrell.
Yes.
All right, Mr. Martinez, if you would please state your name and full address for the record.
Joe Martinez, 1842 Shively Court, Annapolis, Maryland, 21401.
Thank you, sir. And do you declare and affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you,
All
sir.
right, Mr. Martinez, did you hear Officer? Did you hear the Officer Herbert's recitation of the issues there? Did you have anything you'd like to add to that?
Not really. I mean, I just hope that these dogs stay in a penned area. They've been a problem in the neighborhood for quite some time. Heard a lot of complaints from different neighbors. I just hope they stay put.
All right, thank you. Ms. Spuler, I don't know. I know you're probably here to testify against these animals. If you have anything you'd like to add before we move on.
This may be more of an opinion. I know when I was attacked, the situation when it happened, the dog did not charge me, did not bark at me, did not growl. It simply did come up, bit, turned around and walked away. So, I didn't feel like it was being aggressive towards me until it bit me. If that, has any bearing on this.
All right, thank you. All right, if anyone have any questions of the officer or any of the anyone that's here?
Yeah, Tom, I have questions for Officer Herbert. I just want to try to piece some things together in my head. If Britta was in a fenced-in yard, how did the other two dogs get in? Do you know?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
How did they get in?
They came over my deck. There's 3 different gates. All the gates were closed except for the one where the 2 dogs came over the deck and into the fenced area. We usually don't fencers. We don't have any problems with any other dogs except these 2.
Okay. The other question I have is this, in reading the case, I was under the impression that there may have been like a regular play date type of thing going on. Is that true?
A play date? What do you mean by that?
I mean, like the dogs, this was the second time they came over? Because the first time they came over, they were just playing together?
They weren't playing. No, they attacked my dog. They were not playing.
Okay.
The dog had 6 stitches from this.
Okay. Officer Herbert, I just have one question for you. Is the fence, when we get into that, the fence, as I understand, was made out of pallets. Does that comport to the requirements in number 3, stockade fence?
Yeah, it's board on board. The double layered pallet on top of pallet, and then covered with 2x4s into the ground and anti-digging. Okay,
so there's no openings they can get out of. I mean, the pallets to me are things that carry a lot of weight, and they're not really as sturdy as a stockade fence would be. And that was my concern with if you're supposed to have a fence to keep things in, using pallets might not measure up.
No, it was correct. I pushed on it very hard.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. And I'm sorry, Ms. Shuri, I didn't catch your last name.
It's Spuler.
Bueller. Ms. Bueller, could you tell me the circumstances? Could you describe to me what happened that day that you were bit?
Sure. It was my first day of work in Arnold, and I was walking down the steps. I know that the dogs were to my right coming out of an office that was being painted. And I went down the steps, I saw them, I went out, I hit the door that kind of slides open, handicap door. And so the dog was allowed to be able to follow me because the door was staying open for quite some time. The dog followed me out. I noticed one dog was on a leash, the other dog was not. And as I came outside, the dog just simply came up to me. I kind of looked back. He nipped my leg, turned around and walked back to his owner, which time I said, "Your dog just bit me." I went back inside, went upstairs because I know it had broken the skin, saw that it had drawn blood. And the lead clinician here where I work called the police just to, let them know what happened. The owner stated that perhaps the owner was startled seeing me coming down the steps, and maybe the dog sensed that. And so just came out and was protecting his owner and decided just to kind of give me a bite. I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
Sorry, I muted myself. Let's see. So originally you were in the stairwell, and then you
Yes.
came outside.
Yes.
So you originally met them in the stairwell.
Yes.
And then when you came outside, the dog that approached you and bit your leg was the male? Was the younger of the two? Could you tell?
I have no idea.
Okay. Okay. So you don't. So in the one that bit you, was it on lead or off lead?
Off lead.
So the one that was off lead came up, approached you, and
Yes.
nipped at your leg and turned around and went away?
Yes, he ran back or walked away back to his owner who was coming through the door, then out to outside at that time.
Okay. And let's see. So, and was it high on your leg or low on your leg? Was
High.
it your,
High.
Okay.
Yes, high on my left thigh.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions before we move on? Okay, Mr. and Mrs. Harrell, we're here today because you guys have challenged this order. So can you want to tell us, your side of the story and explain exactly what you're asking for here today?
I'll talk first.
Yes, we're both going to talk. Alice is going to talk first.
That's fine.
Yeah, we're both very sorry for the bite to Ms. Shriver. And I actually started with the day of the March 20th, which was the event with Mr. Martinez. And I'll give my side of what I know. I came home from yard selling to discover that me and Lukey were not around. And then I checked my phone GPS app and saw that they had escaped towards Rolling Hills. I immediately went to get them. Shortly after that, Mr. Joe Martinez pulled into our yard and said that his German Shepherd Britta was hurt and that he thought it may be a dog bite from one of our dogs because they were on his property. And he said that he did not see what had happened because he was in his garage at the time. And he showed me his dog Britta and her wound. And I expressed my sympathy and concern. Certainly don't want our pets injured. And I feel the same about his pet. I'm very sorry if that is what happened. And I apologize if that's what happened. But I did see the fur on Britta's side, which was pulled over in a rectangular, about 1.5 inches by 3 with a hole in the middle. And then he told me he was going, the fur was pulled from the front towards the back with only a very little bit of dried blood. He even commented on that. And I asked what I could do to help, and Mr. Martinez said that he wanted us, oops, my cats, get down, sorry. We also have 2 cats. They do not, our dogs don't bother the cats. Mia mothers them, actually. And I apologized to him and said I didn't want anything like this to happen again. But he said he had called Banfield but they were too busy to accommodate him. And then he told me that he was going to take Britta to the emergency vet on Bestgate. And he wanted us to pay the bill, which my husband, when he had called my husband's number, and BJ did not answer because he was on a tractor in the back and didn't hear the call. He had actually called Mr. Martinez back before he even came up to the house. But Mr. Martinez already had been by and left for the vet. When I picked up Mia and Luke, they didn't seem stressed or hurt, and no signs of blood. And the size and the location of the wound on the side of Britta was pulled from the front and back with like a hole in the middle. I didn't actually, from that photo, see teeth marks. I wonder if it's possible, since he did not see the injury happen, or the dogs, is it possible that it could have been another kind of injury other than a bite? There was only that small amount of dry blood. So I was surprised that I guess because the hole was deep enough that they would put in a drain. But the vet tech did tell my husband that it was as deep as a finger, little finger. And there also is the fact that without proof of this was another kind of injury and not a dog bite. And last of all, the fact that our dogs have never been aggressive to another dog. They go to the dog park often. I have lots of dogs come visit us here, our daughter, and her dogs have been here. Our friend Steve brings his dog here every couple of days. They play well. You also have letters, one from a neighbor where Mia would go and play with their dog, Molly, who is a white lab, on a regular basis. And do well with our cats. Mia's almost 8. Next month she'll be 8. We rescued her at the age of 9 months, and she's a black-mouthed cur as far as we know. Lukey, is only 1 year and 5 months now, and he's a purebred black-mouthed cur. We got him at 8 weeks old, and he was only 8 pounds. And he was from a breeder in Kentucky. And when BJ turned 65 8 years ago, he wanted a big dog just for him, and we got Mia. All our other dogs in our past were always attached to me, but they were smaller, like 35 pounds or so. And he wanted a dog to raise. After that, he wanted a second dog to raise again as a puppy, to have 2. He figured Mia would be a good mother dog to this puppy. As it turned out, the puppy got even bigger than Mia. And so now we have 2 dogs, and he regularly takes Mia to work with him and to the dog park. and she has never hurt another pet. And she does not like it when dogs are aggressive to her. And she has pinned them down with lots of slobber, but no bites. Lukey avoids confrontation. We call him Lukey because he's still a little bit loopy because he's not quite grown yet. And he's sweet and shy and really a very docile dog. No, doesn't want to interact with other dogs in a negative way of any kind. He is very sweet. A little bit of history. That's mostly the other part of the confrontation. BJ did go to the veterinary clinic to check on the dog, Britta, that afternoon, several hours after she was there. He was not able to see her, of course, they don't let you, but he asked Mr. Martinez, he talked to him that same day, and he said he would call him when the dog was done so he could go pay the bill. I believe it was like $863. And we kept in contact with Mr. Martinez. He called us again to go pay the bill because they wouldn't release the dog until it was paid. And he asked it how the dog was doing again. We really do care for other pets, animals. I grew up on a dairy farm with lots of animals, 200 and some plus cows, horses, dogs, cats, pigs, chickens, geese, lots of other pets. And all neighbors were miles apart, but we knew each other well. Families and animals are the most important thing to all of us. And our dogs and cats were very lucky to have lots of freedom. Living here in Annapolis we built this house 40 years ago. We've been married 45. And I was born in 1950, so it was different then. But here in Annapolis, having 5 acres, we never had a problem with smaller dogs. We never had a problem, basically, when it was only Mia here, because she would only mostly go to the neighbors that she played with their pets very nicely. And that's through the woods that way. And now I understand there's a pack rule. What happened was we now had a new puppy who's getting bigger, has to run more. He's 95 pounds. Mia's about 75. And they all of a sudden started to wander. Never had that before. So to stop the wandering, we had Lukey neutered early at about 11 months. And Mia was spayed 7 years ago. We have also added the shock collars and the GPSs to their garb so that we could keep better track if they did escape with the GPS, but with the shock collar to help train them better, not to go off the property. And this has been for the last year and a half. We've been doing that. Mia was trained personally by a lady named Kim Ferrace, and we've contacted her and she's agreed to help better train Lukey. But we realized the biggest problem was no fence. We now have a very secure, ugly fence. It's terribly ugly. It's covered in black tar paper and it's 6 feet high. So I can't see out the back as well, but that's the way it is. It will help contain them. And we hope that they never do get out again. Don't want it to happen again with anyone or any animal. And I think that the one incident with Miss Shriver was terribly unfortunate. Mia has never been aggressive to other people or any of our kids we raised here or our 6 grandchildren. But we are keeping things under control as we have complied with all the other things that you have asked of our pets. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Well, so really, we want to get. I mean, I guess the big question is, why are we here today? Are you here to ask to have the order removed? Is there anything specific in the order that you would like us to look at specifically? I mean, by your own admission here, you have a big ugly fence in your backyard. If we were to, just drop this order, what would keep you from taking that fence down because it's big and ugly? I mean, these are the things that we kind of need to think about, and things that we want to hear specifically from you. How this, what you'd like us to consider.
Can I speak now or just wait?
No, absolutely. Go ahead and speak.
Okay.
Whatever you have to say, Mr. Harrell.
We couldn't get a fence company to put up a fence. They said we were like a month out. I called 3 or 4 different places. So I had to put up a fence as quick as I could in order to get the dogs back. So I had access to all these pallets, and somebody suggested that. So that's why we put up that fence. Now that fence is not going to stay up. I've got to deal with people, long fence, I think it's called, to come in and put up another fence, which looks much nicer. But they're still a week out before they can come. But yes, we will take that ugly fence down and put a nice fence up. Okay. And the other thing I was concerned about was after I talked with the lady at the veterinarian and I started looking at the photo of this bite, couldn't figure out how that could happen. If you look at the photo that's in your paperwork there, where are the teeth marks? How did that center hole get made that was so deep? How could a dog do that? And my dog has no history of biting any other dog. And he also has another dog there. Mr. Martinez has 2 dogs.
No, he doesn't.
Yeah, I think he said he had 2 dogs.
I don't think he does.
That dog could have bit his own partner or his buddy. But anyway, that's my concern, that if these dogs are innocent, why would we charge anything if they really didn't bite? And I asked the vets why they put it down as a dog bite after looking at it, and they said we had to do what the owner said. It was a dog bite, so we had to write it up as a dog bite. And I was very upset about that. I said, nobody investigated this because this is doing a lot of harm here to us and a lot of expense for a dog that has no history of biting other animals, because nobody investigated this. But we took the blunt end of it. And I just think that those dogs are innocent. The only people who are guilty is my wife and I for not keeping them back here at the house. Like she said, we're from farms. I am too. And we have 5 acres. We have 100 acres behind us, lots of woods. And we've been letting our dogs run loose. And that was our mistake. Now we know we can't. We have a fence. We got to keep them inside, which we've already made plans to move from Maryland to move down to Florida so we can have a regular farm again. But we just hadn't sold our house yet. But anyway, that's why we let them run loose. Alice and I are the ones that are guilty in this thing, not the dog. I guess that's all I've got to say. And my fines, I mean, the money I paid to have the dog fixed, the money to store the dogs, I think that's fine enough for me, even if I am guilty, which I said I was. That's all I got to say.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Harrell. Does anybody have any questions for them?
I do. So I appreciate you taking responsibility. I mean, obviously, in most of these cases, the animals are doing natural behavior and they're not to blame. We're to blame as owners. It's our responsibility to keep them contained and to help them not get into trouble. The fence, it seems like the solution for them is not be roaming. However, my question for you is, that's the one incident. However, it seems like the dogs go on work sites with you. I'd like a little bit more information about that, because a human was bitten unprovoked, which is another half of this story. So we don't have a complete eyewitness, although they did hear the scuffle of what sounded like the dog bite situation. As a veterinarian, it is absolutely possible that that wound, and looking at those pictures, are made by a bite. Even if you don't see punctures, there can be a pulling event where it tears. And so I see bite wounds like that all the time. It's more of a tear, and it gets that triangular appearance. And then the drain is put in because of a tear. It can pull the skin and lifts and makes a pocket underneath. So it's not a puncture where all the skin is laying down flat and tight. A pull with a tear like that creates a pocket, which is why they put a drain in, where the skin has been lifted away. And that finger length or whatever is about the depth of just, not into depth of muscle, but like the depth of how far that pocket would go. And that's why they put a drain in. So yeah, it's very likely based on history and that, I hear you that there's not an eyewitness to the dog attack, but it seems very plausible. And then the problem of them roaming is something that you're taking care of. But back to my other point is what's happening with the dogs going with you everywhere on work site, because if we uphold this order, they wouldn't be allowed to go with you other places like that and be out in public for, and for someone, the animals can't speak, but a human being can. And Miss Bueller, I believe it was bitten and can speak and say what happened and witness to it, that she was bitten unprovoked. So I think there's some merit in that part of the story as well. Tell me a bit more detail about what's going on, Mr. Harrell, about the animals coming with you on work sites.
Well, first of all, I'd like to make clear of the lady that got bit. I took my dogs with me to work that day because the building I thought was empty. There was nobody there. As far as I knew, there was nobody there. I don't know how she got. She probably come in. She had a key like I did. So I got let in, and the only reason I went over there is because nobody was in a building. But if you've ever walked around a corner and you meet someone, and you startled and you jump back, she come down the steps, and we come out of there, and we met each other, and we startled each other. Well, when I jumped back and went, oh, like that, because she scared me, that's what made my dog come around me and go after her. But as soon as I said, no, Mia, she stopped. But that's why that happened. I mean, it wouldn't normally happen, but because I yelled out in fear, my dog came around me. And as far as going to the job with me, ever since this happened, I don't take them to the job anymore. And if I did take them to the job, I'd put the muzzle on them and tie them in the back of the truck. So they wouldn't get out of the truck and they'd have a muzzle on. But I haven't taken them anywhere since this has happened.
Mr. Harrell, what type of work do you do? I mean, when you say these job sites, is it interior, exterior? What are we talking about exactly?
Interior, exterior painting work, drywall and painting. And I was painting inside of an office building, touching up things that my men had done and a few complaints they had. And I went over there to fix those complaints because everybody else was, they weren't working. I don't know what day.
Saturday or Sunday.
And I didn't know the lady was in that building. I thought it was empty.
It was also COVID.
That's why the dog wasn't on a leash. Well, I had one on a leash, not the other.
Lukey was on a leash.
Yeah, because Luki's not trained yet. But that's all I can tell you, unless you have any other questions. I'm just concerned about, and if he has two dogs, how come that couldn't be his dog had been? If nobody saw what happened. Anyway,
give me 1 second here. Mr. Harrell, if you wouldn't mind muting for a second. Ms. Bueller, sounds like you have to refute something he said, and Mr. Martinez, I'd like you to speak to if you have two dogs. Just let Ms. Bueller go first, please.
All right. I just want to first say, I don't know how he thought that the building was empty. There are businesses. It was in the middle of the week. If I'm correct, it was a Wednesday, March 25th, 2020. So there are businesses happening during the day. And it was my first day of work. I only worked a half day. So it was around noon, 1 o'clock in the afternoon on a Wednesday. You have an allergy doctor, downstairs. You've got various offices in the building. So I don't know why he thought it would be empty. When I did come down the steps, the only reason I was startled was because I saw two dogs and they looked quite big to me. So I just, I didn't say anything. I just kind of looked and I did not hear him say, no, Mia. I didn't hear him respond. I just walked out the door and the dog followed me. So I'm not sure. I'm just kind of a little confused as to why he thought the building was empty or that he tried to make the dog stop, because I didn't hear any of that.
All right, thanks, Ms. Roller. And now, Mr.
You're
Martin,
welcome.
do you or do you not have a second dog? Let's just go there. I see him shaking. You're shaking your head no. Can you respond verbally? Yeah, take it off mute.
Can you hear me now? Okay. For the record, yes, I have one dog. And also, to be honest, I did not see the bite happen. But like I said, I was painting inside of my garage. Brady was hanging out in the garage. She took 5 steps out the back door, and that's when I heard the fighting going on. I went to the door. Before I got to the door, my dog, Britta, came back inside, and she was whimpering, and I saw that her fur on the right hand side, her left hand side was the fur was all disturbed. And I looked further and saw the gash of a bite. Didn't know it was a bite, but I figured that because of the 2 dogs that I looked in the back, and they were right there. So obviously it wasn't another dog, it was those 2 dogs for sure. And I'm just concerned about the future. Are they going to get out? Are they going to hurt a kid in the street? Since she got bit, my dog got bit. There's been 4 different neighbors that have actually taken those dogs into their garage and fenced areas, had to call him and then for him to come pick up the dogs. So they're a major problem. I just hope to God they don't get out again and bite another dog or a kid.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Martinez.
I can hear it.
Oops, we can't.
Yeah, you guys can mute again, please.
What's up?
Come, they're like this.
Oh, you're good now. Okay. All right. So does anyone, all right. I think there's obviously some discrepancies between Mr. Harrell, Ms. Bueller, Mr. Martinez now. I mean, Mr. Martinez has 1 dog. You know, the incident with Ms. Bueller, I guess they can see it different ways, but does anyone have any questions of either party at this point? I have at least one, but I'm gonna let anyone else go first. Mr. Harrell, go ahead. You're still muted, Mr. Harrell.
The reason the building was empty that day was because it was COVID and nobody was working. Everybody was staying home at that time. And that's why the building was empty. Her story is, I don't remember her. Way I saw it was when we met and our dog went up on her, she jumped back and the dog came back to us. Then she walked outside, but I don't remember our dog following her outside. It did bite, it come up on her and bite her, and he came right back to me. It did not follow her outside.
Okay. I'll give you that during COVID times, it would be reasonable to assume the building may be empty, but in this case, it was not. So, or at least to Ms. Bueller's, it was not.
Right.
So before, I have a question of you guys, the Harrells, please. 2 things really. One thing you said, Ms. Harrell, was that your dog, the larger dog, Mia, does not like aggressiveness and has pinned dogs to the ground. That you say was slobber, but you said that that's happened. So you've witnessed that happen. And the other thing is you have a GPS, correct? Because I would assume that if you were trying to refute any evidence that your dogs were in his yard, you could use that GPS to do so, and you haven't done that today. So I'm just wondering, is that possible that you could provide that information? Because obviously, Mr. Martinez has said that he saw your 2 dogs and other people, and he came directly to your house with the advice of another neighbor. So I'm just trying to get to, if you're sure it wasn't your dogs, I mean, if you don't think that this could have happened, I think the GPS collar would be a great way to prove that they weren't in the area. But otherwise, I mean, those are the 2 things I have at this point.
I'm not disputing the fact that our dogs were there at the time of this incident. I'm saying that wound was an old wound.
No,
it was an old wound. It had dried blood on it.
you don't know that.
Well, they don't know that either.
No.
That's what I'm disputing. Our dog was there. I would say our dog was there, but is there a possibility that our dog didn't do the biting or the injury?
Okay. All right. Does anyone have any more questions of anybody here before we deliberate? Mr. Martinez, yes. You're muted again, sir. I'm sorry. I know this is frustrating. Technology can be frustrating. Still muted, sir. There you go. You're good to go.
Okay, you can hear me. All right. So when I brought Britta to the emergency vet, 2 vets came out and said, yes, it looks like a dog bite. So it wasn't an old wound. It was bleeding and it was fresh. So I don't know why he's thinking another dog did it or have a second dog, which is not true. She got bit by one of those dogs, 100% for sure. Just wanted to add that.
Okay.
Matt, we can't hear you.
Why does it keep
Because they're working the mute too.
We can hear you guys still. There you go. All right. All right. I don't have any more questions for either party before we go ahead and deliberate.
Also, just to mention from a medical standpoint that you can't, primary closure of a wound, you can't close old wounds with sutures. So medically that we wouldn't close an older wound. You'd have to debride edges and freshen edges. So a primary closure, there's secondary intention of healing wounds, and you only close a primary intention fresh wound.
Okay. All right.
Can I say, I'm sorry, can I say one more thing? Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Ms. Bueller, go ahead.
I just want to make sure, just to clarify, the bite did happen outside. When you're bit for the first time in your life by a dog, you kind of remember every detail of it. And there was even a lady who was outside smoking, and it happened right in front of her. And she looked at me, I looked at her. So the dog did come outside of the door, since it was a handicapped door that stayed open longer. He was able to follow me out, and the bite did occur outside.
All right. I honestly, I appreciate you guys going back and forth on this. I think it's an agreement the dog did bite you, and I think in this case it's supporting evidence to the other case that we were here for. So I appreciate you guys both, understanding that there's a disagreement of exactly how it happened. I think there's agreement that it did happen. So with that being said, any other questions of either party before we start to deliberate? Ms. Harrell, please. Please unmute. You have to unmute, please. There you
go. In terms of the younger dog, Luke, who has never expressed any aggression, he is, like we said, a year old. He will be trained. I would like to get his record cleared and dismissed of all charges. He was on a leash. He did not confront the lady. He has never had interaction with another dog. He is totally different than Mia. Mia is a very protective, loyal, old soul with a heart. She would do anything for us. And we have several letters in your possession of our immediate neighbors to the back that absolutely love her. For the past 5 years, she's gone to visit one friend who play dates up at this house with Karen. And Laura, another neighbor, had a serious car accident. Mia would go up and lay with her in her bed and comfort her. And she also wrote a beautiful letter I'd like you to notice. Thank you. That's it. And Lukey has, I think, should be completely dismissed. He has never had an incident ever. Mia is older and has traveled more since Lukey's here, but before that, 2000, she did not bother people in other neighborhoods. It's only this past year since Lukey's gotten bigger. Thank you.
Thank you. You can please mute again, please. Thank you.
I can't.
All right. So unless there's any other questions, I think we're gonna go ahead and deliberate. So I don't know if you need to do something specific with that, Phil, but usually I would pass the mic to somebody else, but I think right off the bat, I want to make it clear to everyone that there are, and let me go back and look at this. There is actually 2 separate orders on each dog. So, you know, we need to look at this in that way. You know, if we're upholding, obviously we uphold an order on one, some of the stipulations, you know, will apply to both, as in the fencing. Obviously the animals will both have an opportunity to be behind a fence, but if we were not to uphold both, then, you know, specific things such as muzzles and leashes and all would not apply to one or the other. So I just want to make sure everyone's clear on that. And with that being said, I guess we'll start with you, Stephanie. If you have any questions, I appreciate your medical expertise in this. It definitely is helpful in this case.
Sure. I just wanted to let the Harrells know that we have the information here, and I did read the very nice letters in regards to Mia from Miss Karen Smith, and then also from your friend Laura, and that our testimony that Mia can be a very loving member of your family, and it does seem like at least with some certainty that Mia seems to be the one that we can confirm as a concern with the human bite. We're not sure exactly what happened between the 2 dogs in the backyard with Britta, the shepherd, but something occurred. So, you know, I'm leaning towards the solution to the problem is keeping the dogs from running at large. I mean, we have a lot of history from Officer Herbert from running at large over the last year or more. So I think that the dangerous order, based on what I'm hearing today from the human bite with Mia, should be upheld in every way. I think the fence is going to be their greatest key, even when they move to Florida. With more land, this will follow to Florida for requirements for Mia. I'm open to just, you know, Mia's 7 years old. Luke is a year old and still in training. It seems like he's been running at large, but I'm not sure if he's the aggressor in these situations. So I'd be open-minded to give them some opportunity to train Luke. He's got a full life ahead of him. They're in process of getting training. So they're both neutered and spayed. That should help with roaming as well. So I guess I'm open to discussion further about dismissing Luke and upholding in its fullest for Mia.
All right, thank you. Ms. Brienza.
Hi. I'm first of all, let me just say that it bothers me greatly that we really don't know what happened between the dogs, and we're kind of just guessing. I am grateful for Stephanie's medical opinions because, you know, if this was a human that had been injured, it would take more than the hearsay included in the medical report, even in an emergency department room, to come to the conclusion how an injury occurred. So, and you know, the dogs can't speak for themselves. So it does kind of bother me that we don't know exactly how it happened. I'm not sure what you do in a case where you have 2 dogs involved and you can't just, I heard nothing to indicate that the dog, that the victim, Britta, was bitten more than once. So it could only have been one of the dogs. Everything I've heard leads me to indicate that that if a dog bite occurred, and I don't think I have enough information to say one way or the other, but if Britta was bitten by another dog, the likelihood was that it was bitten by Mia. So I would be reluctant to issue to continue the dangerous order against Luke. Even Mia's owners seem to indicate that if that had happened, Mia would have been the most likely culprit. And I'm not sure how you handle it when you have 2 dogs involved and you can't decide which one. It seems kind of patently unfair to label a dog so young when no one knows for sure how that happened. And I don't mean in any way to diminish the injury to Britta. I'm glad Britta will be will be able to heal. But I would be reluctant to uphold the order against Luke.
All right, thanks. Ed, you have anything to say?
Yeah, I think in this particular case, we can the circumstantial evidence on Britta, I think, kind of tips it, especially with the history that's there, and without going into a lot of speculation on the after effects, the excuses and everything that we have heard. The bill was paid, which was honorable. I don't think that would have even occurred if there wasn't something there at the time to make the owner think that it did not happen at all. So, I appreciate that part, but I too, I feel like Stephanie and Jennifer as well, that Luke probably is not the aggressor. They're just two dogs that hang together, and that Mia is probably the aggressor, but we don't want Luke picking up any bad habits. I would definitely want the dangerous order to stay in place for Mia. I'd be okay with dropping the one for Luke to PDO. I don't think dropping everything it should be in play. It should even be thought about because of the at-large situation. So, as far as Mia goes, I think the dangerous order should stay, and to keep the specifications of the fence and keeping them in. Perhaps Luke should be dropped to a PDO, but no further, because then you got one dog going out, with no restraints. I don't think taking them to the job site is very healthy either. So I think the PDO should stay in place for Mia.
All right, thanks, Ed. And Elizabeth.
Good morning, everyone. I am following along the same lines as everyone else who's spoken thus far. I think that the situation with the dog incident at the Martinez home is very plausible, and as everyone has mentioned, Mia seems to have those behavioral tendencies towards more aggression. So it's clear that the incident at the office building was Mia. So I am inclined to uphold that dangerous order. Now, again, as Stephanie mentioned, I do appreciate very much that the Harrells have taken responsibility for what has occurred, the dogs being at large. That is very, very important in this case, that they understand that they did not set their dogs up to succeed, and they are committed to rectifying that situation by keeping the dogs contained in the home. Very, very key to preventing future incidences. With regard to Luke, there's no evidence, in my opinion, that Luke showed aggression in either of these cases, really. And not knowing what exactly happened in the dog incident, I still feel that I am inclined to drop everything against Luke. So that would be my recommendation in this case. Uphold with Mia and drop the order on Luke entirely.
Gotcha. I tend to agree. I would say that, looking at the whole situation, Luke could definitely being the younger dog. I mean, I see where Ed's coming from, wanting to drop it to a PDO. I do think that, with the fence being the number one thing in this situation, and the fence requirement would kind of apply to both dogs, because if we uphold the one, obviously it'll apply to both. Obviously then Luke would be allowed to go out to work and there'd be no restrictions against him. I mean, he could go out to work with them anyway with a muzzle and a leash. So that would be the only thing I would consider maybe different, other than a warning, between a warning and a PDO, would be if we did PDO just to pretty much, include a muzzle, a leash, and the fence in a PDO and drop everything else pretty much. But if I'd be just as fine to drop it to a warning. I agree that, you know, we sit here month after month and we talk about owners that, you know, we want them to be, you know, to know what's going on. You know, they talked about training without us asking questions. That rarely happens. They talked about, you know, trying to keep these animals in, that realizing that, you know, over years and years of wanting to let these dogs roam and do their thing, that's just how they grew up, that they realize that can't happen. So with that all being said, I'll ask for a motion.
I just want to say one thing.
Sure.
Before we go to a motion. The reason I suggested a PDO is because in reading the case, there was a situation where I believe it was Luke, who is the tender dog, let's just say, wanders free and goes to a neighbor's house and comforted her, got in bed with her and all that. The concern that I have would be, you know, if you continue to let Luke out, we'll be here again when Mia got out behind her or behind Luke. You know, did Mia? We can let Luke out, and sorry, Mia got out behind him and bit this child or chewed up, you know, another dog or whatever. That's my only concern. There would be nothing in place to keep that from happening. I agree with Elizabeth that there's no evidence against Luke at all in this case, but we do have two dogs roaming together, and I just had this fear that we'll be back again. You know, if Mia gets out because Luke can be out. That's the only concern I have.
I got you. And I will say, I mean, I understand that if you're talking that no one specifically saw this incident happen, that we don't have direct evidence. But I would also suggest that in this situation, if you're in your garage and 10 feet away, you hear dogs snarling and carrying on, and your dog comes in with a wound. I mean, I understand that wound could happen maybe by rubbing up against a fence or hitting some other way. The aggressiveness of the dogs in the yard, to me, or the fact that dogs were even there whatsoever, speaks enough to a dangerous order to me, regardless of anything else. Just, you know, just because of the previous bites and everything else, I think, to me personally, I just can't see past that. So, you know, if there was any disagreement that the dogs were there, I mean, the owner of the dogs had no disagreement that the dogs were there at all. So, I mean, it's unlikely to me that wound happened any other way. But I understand that physically, technically, there could have been another way. But that all being said, does anyone want to make a motion?
I just want to say, Ed, I completely understand where you're coming from. I guess, you know, in my mind, for all of us, I think we are all in agreement, owners included, that what we at least have significant evidence towards Mia and upholding the dangerous order for Mia. I guess my hopes were that Luke would live under the benefit of the restrictions for Mia in terms of the fencing and containment. And maybe that would be all the plus training that they have planned, give them an opportunity to raise a 1-year-old dog now that they've learned their lesson. I have some feeling from their conversation of what they've been through and financially, and also just hoping that they've learned their lesson in letting them roam, and that Luke can live under the benefit of the containment for Mia. There's no question in my mind the dangerous order holds for Mia. And I guess we're all just discussing Luke, whether he lives under the benefit of the restrictions for Mia versus, you know, that's to your point, Ed, wondering what to do about Luke. I think that's the only question that we have here is, but again, I hear what you're saying, but I'm still thinking that they've learned their lesson about roaming, and the fencing is a solution, and that Luke can have a chance as a 1-year-old dog to be trained. And, you know, we don't have any evidence against him at all. So I'm still inclined to drop the order completely for Luke and uphold the dangerous order completely for Mia.
I can live with that.
But when you say drop the order, are you guys talking about dropping it to a warning? I mean, we need to do.
I think the warning makes a lot of
something.
sense that we have documentation.
Yeah, I think we have to have something to document it.
Yeah, I think a
that,
warning makes sense.
I agree with the warning, with a strong recommendation for training.
Okay, yeah, I think.
And just to speak, and I understand totally also what you're saying, Ed. The thing is that Luke isn't allowed to just run loose. I mean, because that would be against the code also, and that he would be running at large. So he technically, I mean, he's not allowed to just be, oh, well, here you don't have an order, so you can go, roam the neighborhood. That's not allowed either. So there are things in place for him, without the order. So there are the laws, the normal laws.
I'm good with that. I'm good with that.
All right. Can I have a motion then?
Sure, I'll make a motion to uphold the dangerous order on Mia and to drop the order on Luke to a warning letter with a recommendation for training.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor? All right, it's unanimous. Thank you guys for your time this morning.
Thank you.
Whenever you're ready, Phil, we'll call the next case.
Yes, sir. Our next case, we have Animal Care and Control versus Pedro Guzman Flores for the appeal of the vicious order for Migo. All parties who have an interest in this case who wish to testify may now come forward to take the oath. If you would please utilize Zoom's raise hand feature. I'll get you added in one by one, and then I'll get you all sworn in at the end. Let's see, we've got one person with a hand up. And then the officer. Can you hear me, ma'am?
Yes.
If you please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Kara Alcamo, and my address is 7802 Spencer Road, Glen Burnie, Maryland 21060.
Thank you kindly. Hang out for just 1 second. I'll get you sworn in a moment. Officer Simpson, if you could unmute and name and address for the record.
Officer Simpson, 411 Maxwell Fry Road, Millersville, Maryland 21108.
Thank you kindly. Hang out for just 1 second. I don't see anybody else with a hand up. Don't see Mr. Guzman.
Have you heard from them at all today? Any reason why they may not be attending?
I've not received any message to that tune. Let me see. We have a couple people in the attendees here still. Just a reminder, anybody looking to testify, just use the Zoom raise hand feature and I can get you put up. See a Wayne and a Jurgen Schwab, but that could be for another case.
Jurgen Schwab is for this case.
Oh, all right. Let me get him up here and see what's what. Thank you for that.
Yeah. He had to go to work, so he may be having trouble because he's on his phone.
Uh-oh. All right, let me send him a prompt here. Mr. Schwab, if you can hear us, if you could start your video and audio up. Let me see if I can get a hold of Mr. Guzman. I did get a hold of Mr. Guzman. He said he was helping a sibling and he would be on shortly. Let's see if we can get Mr. Schwab working in the meantime.
It's my boyfriend, so I'm happy to testify on behalf of both of us if he doesn't hop on.
Curran, I don't know if you can chime in here, but I believe that the owner of the dog needs to. I'm not sure if we can have that. I'm not sure how that works.
Mr. Guzman's the owner of the dog, and he's the individual that said he'd be on shortly. Mr. Schwab is the one having connection issues.
Oh, I gotcha. Okay, so Ms. Alcamo is testifying. I gotcha. Never mind.
I mean, Mr. Schwab, if you can hear us, you might want to try shutting it down and popping it back open. That would at least let us know that you can hear us if I see you disappear here.
I just tried calling his coworker that he's with, so we'll see.
Perfect. Thank you.
Phil, would it make any sense to move on to the next case and just bump them down one?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have the defendant here. It's
okay.
I suppose if that's how you want to handle it as acting chairman, we can make that so.
Well, no. I mean, I'll give him a couple minutes here, but I mean, if he's, I understand we don't have him here. If he's planning on attending, and if it's a quick little thing, it's one thing. But if he's planning on dragging this out all morning,
yeah. To be fair, it was 9 a.m. to appear, and it's 10:17 now. I'm not quite sure.
I agree.
What the plan was.
Phil?
Yes, sir.
Does Mr. Guzman understand that if he doesn't show what the rules say about that?
Yes, sir. He received notice, and I'm sure the officer's been quite clear with him on the subject.
Okay.
Let me try to reach out one more time and impress upon him the urgency of his situation.
I'll give him one more quick chance, and then we're just gonna go ahead and we'll put it up to a vote here and move on.
Okay. I have a question though in relation to Mr. Evans. Like he just asked if Mr. Flores actually understood what could happen here, and I'm looking at the letter, and the letter says, that the agency will make appropriate disposition of the animal. I'm not sure that actually tells you what the fate of this dog could be today.
I have to agree with that.
Yeah, I'm not 100% comfortable voting on a vicious order to put a dog down without a defense.
I agree with that as well.
I'm just saying that if the owner chooses to act lackadaisical about this hearing today, that there are possible consequences. I think that needs, I just wanted Phil to reiterate that to him, not,
I've got him here. Let me bump him up.
Yeah.
He should be visible in a moment. If you would please start your video and unmute, sir, if you can hear me.
Hello?
Hello, perfect. If you would please state your name and address for the record.
Excuse me. Can you talk a little louder? I can't hear you.
Yes, sir. If you would please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Pedro Guzman Flores. I live at 7749 Spencer Road.
City and zip, please.
Excuse me?
City and zip code as well, please, sir. Full address.
Glen Burnie, Maryland, 21060.
Thank you kindly. Hang on for just 1 second. I'm going to get you sworn in.
All right, thank you.
And I'm sorry, Officer Simpson, did I already get your name and address on that record?
Yes, you did.
All right, perfect. Just double checking. So if I could get all of who's testifying, raise your right hand. Perfect. And do you declare and affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you kindly. We're good to proceed. Please stay muted unless called upon to speak.
Okay, go ahead, Officer Simpson. Do you want to start your case, please?
Yes, good morning, panel. On March 25th, 2021, approximately 11:52 hours, Animal Care and Control received a call concerning a dog currently confined in a laundry room that attacked the caller's chickens. Officer Piccarelli was dispatched to the location. At 12:20 hours, Officer Piccarelli arrived at 7802 Spencer Road, Glen Burnie, Maryland, 21060. Upon arrival, Officer Piccarelli impounded a Siberian Husky type dog, black and white, wearing a male dog, wearing a brown collar and a green harness with a dog bone shape. The tag was imprinted with the name Migo. The ADS number was 267359. Officer Piccarelli also issued a citation 2Z4556421 for animal at large that would later be issued to the dog owner when located. Officer Piccarelli reports that the owner of the injured chickens, Cara Alcameo, is missing one of her roosters named Fendi that she observed on her security camera being carried off in the mouth of the husky in question. Mrs. Alcameo's pet hen named Blue sustained serious injuries from the husky and was in the process of being transported to Falls Road Animal Hospital in Baltimore County. Mrs. Alcameo reported that she received a non-exposure bite from the husky when she secured him to the house bathroom. Mrs. Alcameo advised that she will forward a copy of the security video and photos of Blue's injuries with veterinarian records to the Animal Care and Control's Bite Department. On March 26, 2021, Mrs. Alcameo forwarded a copy of the video of the attack and photos of the injuries sustained by her hen named Blue. March 29, 2021, Officer Simpson, spoke with Cara Alcameo by phone after receiving veterinarian records. Mrs. Alcameo informed me that her boyfriend recovered her pet rooster, Fende, still alive. Both Blue and Fende sustained serious injuries resulting in humane euthanasia of both animals at Falls Road Animal Hospital. Veterinarian records indicate that both chickens received a poor prognosis due to multiple punctures that penetrated the body walls of both of the birds. Mrs. Alcameo provided the following written statement concerning the attack of her chickens that occurred on March 25, 2021. The following: on the morning of March 25, 2021, my boyfriend Jurgen Schwab, I'm sorry if I pronounce these names wrong, and I were working from home. He was in the living room on work call. I was in the office in the front left corner of the home. Our pet chickens were outside in the yard as they are free range. I had to let them out of the run at 9:42 a.m., which I know because I went back and looked at our backyard security camera footage. At 9:54 a.m. per security camera footage, I got up and got a cup of coffee and looked out the window to check on them, as I usually do when they're out. I noticed a large pile of white feathers in the backyard and immediately knew something had happened. I ran outside and saw more piles of feathers throughout the lawn and the driveway. I ran into the garden, which is on the right side of the driveway when you're facing the property from the street. In the garden, I saw a blue husky dog who had cornered my favorite hen, Lulu, under a wheelbarrow. He was chasing her around under the wheelbarrow, snapping his mouth, trying to bite at her. Without thinking, I ran over to the dog and grabbed it by its yellow harness. I pulled it away from her. The dog looked at me and then bit my arm, but not hard enough to break the skin. It struggled to get away, but I was able to drag it across the driveway into our house via the back door. I put it in the laundry room, which is right next to the back door, and closed the door so he couldn't get out. I then ran to the back side of the wheelbarrow, but I could not find Lulu. I did not know at this point if she was injured or not. I started quickly walking our property looking for the rest of the chickens and did not see any. But I found large piles of feathers, some of which were bloody with skin still attached, scattered through the backyard and the front yard and the driveway. I could tell from the amount of feathers that there were some who were injured and possibly killed. I felt terrified, sad, and panicky. As I walked through the left side of my yard, my boyfriend stuck his head out of the window to call the cat, who was also outside at the time. I told him what had happened. He ran outside as well, and we began frantically walking the property, calling our chickens by saying loudly, chick, 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 chick. That is the way we call them to come to us. And they always run to us when we call because they know they'll get a treat. But they did not come this time. Once we had walked through the front and the backyard and the side yards, and we began searching through the woods behind our house. There we heard one of our hens, Thunder, making an alarming sound. She was standing on a fallen tree, although she was too scared to come to us. We were able to herd her back towards the house. We then went into the woods to continue searching. We were able to find 2 more hens and a rooster deep in the brush in the woods on the border of our neighbor's backyard. Again, we attempted to catch them. They were clearly scared, and because they were making alarm calls, they would not come to us. And when we called, we couldn't catch them despite climbing through the brush and the sticker bushes. But we were able to herd them back towards our backyard. We kept searching in our yard and the neighbor's yard behind the woods over the course of the 2 hours of searching. We were able to find all but 2 chickens and either catch them or guide them back to our yard. Once we came back into the yard, we found one of the 2 missing chickens, a brown, and I'm sorry if I pronounce this wrong, a Maracujuna hen named Blue, under the picnic table in the backyard. She was visibly injured. We could see a pool of blood on her back and she was missing her tail. We could see pink skin where her tail feathers would normally be. Her tail feathers had been ripped off, and there were chunks of them scattered about, one in the driveway, one in the backyard. She was clearly in pain because she had puffed out her feathers and was laying on the ground. We attempted to touch her. She tried to run away, but she was able to limp a few steps. We did not want to injure herself further, so we left her under the picnic table at the time. Once we had most of our chickens back safely in the run, I called animal control to request an officer come out to collect the dog so we could file a complaint. I placed that call at 11:58 a.m. At this time, we also watched our security camera footage. We saw Fendi, the gray rooster, who was still missing. He had been bitten by the dog and carried around the dog through the front and the backyard as he chased our other chickens. The dog also shook him in his mouth, which is what caused large piles of feather I had found earlier. We believe Fendi to be dead at this time based on the severity of the dog's attack. We saw on the footage from our door camera that the dog had run into our yard across the street at 9:50 a.m., meaning there was only 4 minutes between when he began his attack and came outside to stop him. Only 8 minutes between when I let the chickens out and the attack began. We watched the back porch camera footage as well, and were able to save clips we had shared with Officer Piccarelli and myself, Officer Simpson. It was extremely emotional and disturbing to us to watch the footage of our beloved pets as they were attacked and maimed. Once we had finished saving the clips, we continued searching for Fendi because we believed him to be dead and we were searching for his body. We were afraid that even if he was still alive, he had crawled somewhere to hide and was suffering and would die alone. This thought upset us severely, and we did not want him to die alone. Officer Piccarelli arrived at 12:19 p.m. Jurgen was outside searching for Fendi while I had gone inside to change my pants were muddy from crawling through the woods. She had walked up to him and was describing the events leading up to our arrival when I came outside. We showed her Blue, who was an injured hen under the picnic table, and picked her up to bring her inside the house. We put Blue in a plastic bin for transport to the vet. She again did not move and her breathing was labored. We talked to Officer Piccarelli, who explained the animal control process to us and filled out the report and told us that the bite officer would be in touch with us about our case. Officer Piccarelli was able to put a leash on the dog, then took him out of the laundry room to her van. She left at 12:38 p.m. I would like to say, for the record, she did a great job in explaining everything to us, and would appreciate her understanding and empathy as we were all going through a traumatic event. After she left, I called several animal hospitals to find one emergency services that could also treat chickens. I got in touch with Falls Road Animal Hospital in northern Baltimore and gave them our information so they could take us right away when we arrived. My boyfriend was outside searching for Fendi during this time. After I finished my call with the animal hospital, I joined them and we both searched for Fendi's body throughout our property, eventually down the street looking into our neighbor's yards. We finally found him in the next door neighbor's front garden. He was still alive to our surprise, but he was obviously severely injured. He had blood on his back and belly. He was not moving and did not attempt to run away, but his head was up and he looked at us. Jurgen picked him up and then gently carried him back home, where we put him into the bin with Blue. Fendi was clearly terrified and he had crawled up under Blue's wing, tried to hide. The sight of Blue holding her wing over Fendi like she was comforting him despite her own injuries was very difficult for us. Neither of them moved after that, and their breathing was labored. They were panting, but we did not know if it was from pain or they're having trouble getting air due to their internal injuries. As soon as we got them both in the bin, my boyfriend left to take them both to Falls Road Animal Hospital for emergency treatment. This was at 1:26 p.m. I stayed home and kept them updated via phone and text. Although the vet took them right away, we waited for hours to find out if they were going to make it. The vet examined both chickens, x-rayed them for broken bones to check for punctured lungs and body cavities, and eventually told us that it did not look good. She said that in addition to the visible wounds, Blue's body cavity had been punctured, and Fendi had severe bruising, which told us he could cause issues like water in the lungs. She told us that both only had a 20% chance of survival, and that's only if they stayed at the animal hospital for 3 days, which would cost approximately $1,500. I believe she said it would be $1,500 per chicken for a total of $3,000, but we cannot recall exactly. My boyfriend and I made a difficult decision to end their suffering to euthanize our pets. He called me on the video so I could say goodbye, and we both cried as we stroked the feathers before the vet put him down. He was at the vet for about 5.5 hours from 2:15 until 7:47 p.m., which is when he texted me to tell me that he was on his way back and the cost of the visit was $350. When he arrived back home, I went to the driveway to meet him. He opened the cardboard box with our chickens in it, which was on the passenger seat, so I could see them both, and we both cried and hugged each other. We took their bodies into the backyard. We dug a hole under our tree next to our coop while I held them and rocked them in my arms. We cuddled them and pet them one last time before they were buried. We would like it noted that while we were outside for hours searching for our chickens, we did not see or hear anyone searching for a dog. We did not see or hear anyone walking down the street, calling a dog, nor any vehicles that appeared to be searching. This led us to believe that the owners were either unaware or did not care that their dog was roaming free. Additionally, we would like to note that this is not the first time this dog has been in our yard and attempted to attack our chickens. I shared an additional video from March 14th with Officer Piccarelli of the same dog attempting to attack them through the run while we were not home. The dog was there for 45 minutes and only left once. They all went into their coop and we could no longer see them. It was gone. The dog was gone by the time we got home, and we did not know who it was. So we did not file a complaint, but we plan to do retroactively if possible. As you can probably tell from our statement, this was and remains extremely traumatic and emotional event for us. We love all our chickens like our children. We talk to them, we hand feed them treats. They bring us joy every day. We even have diapers so that they can bring the small ones inside when they watch TV with us, as crazy as that may seem. They all have their own personalities that we have grown to know and love. To have them attacked and terrified, and to have them violently injured, which ultimately resulted in their deaths, has caused and continues to cause us extreme pain. We hope that the statement provides the court with sufficient details of the attack so it can be dealt with appropriately, and are eager to assist in any way possible. Thank you. March 29, 2021, I spoke with the owner of Migo, Pedro Guzman Flores, by phone. Mr. Flores advised that he was contacted by Animal Care and Control staff that his dog Migo was currently under a mandatory impound. Mr. Flores inquired how he could get Amigo back. I asked Mr. Flores if he knew how Amigo escaped his yard, if he knew that his dog attacked some pet chickens and that belonged to a neighbor that resulted in the death of the two animals. Mr. Pedro admitted that Migo has escaped in the yard in the past, but never, to his knowledge, harmed any animals. Mr. Flores advised he was completely unaware of this event. I informed Mr. Flores that Migo is being held under the public safety law pending an investigation and review of the incident. March 30th, 2021, after careful review of the evidence by myself and the field supervisor of Animal Care and Control, it was decided that the owner of Migo, Pedro Guzman Flores, would be issued a vicious order due to the public safety violations under Anne Arundel County Code Article 12402A3 and 12402A5 under public safety, and also Article 1240905, animals running at large. On April 1st, Mr. Flores visited Animal Care and Control. Mr. Flores was issued the vicious order and given an appeal letter and advised on the process of an appeal. Mr. Flores signed the order and completed his appeal letter. I handed copies of the signed order and his appeal letter. Migo is currently in the care and custody of in the care of custody of Anne Arundel County Animal Care and Control. All the aforementioned events occurred here in Anne Arundel County, Maryland. So I have some pictures. These are some of the wounds that Mrs. Alcameo has sent me. probably a little hard to make out.
We have them in the
Oh, okay, great.
we'll scan them. I mean, you feel free to show them, but I think we all
Yep.
have a file.
No, we also have a video of the incident of March 25th and also a prior incident of the March 15th that Mrs. Alcameo is talking about as well. Mr. Hall, are you able to play those?
Yes, sir. If I could have 1 second, though, it looks like Mr. Schwab has reconnected successfully and wants to be sworn in. If we could just knock that out real quick, then we can do the video and see if I can get him up here. Mr. Schwab, if you can hear me, pop your video and audio up. There we go.
Yes.
Oh, perfect. If you would please state your name and full address for the record.
Jürgen Schwab, 7802 Spencer Road, 21060, Glen Burnie.
Thank you kindly. If you would please raise your right hand. Do you declare and affirm under the penalties of perjury?
I do.
The testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, I do.
Thank you kindly. Hang on for just a minute. Remain muted until called upon to speak. And let me see if I can get these videos going. Do apologize. Might take me just a second.
So while you're getting that going, Officer Simpson, I have a question. This vicious order is, we're looking at this as these chickens are domestic animals. I was under the impression that chickens would be considered livestock. How did you guys make that? I mean, understanding that they're their pets, and I understand they're treated like pets, but is there a distinguish in the law there? Have you guys discussed that at all?
We looked, we couldn't find it. I mean, if they're considered pets, I don't see any difference between a pet or a pet iguana. I mean, it's still considered, if it's considered a pet, they weren't raised for livestock. They weren't raised for eating. So we're looking at them as pets.
Okay.
That's up to the board to decide.
I understand, but I just wanted to know how you guys came to that. I just want to make sure that you guys had at least thought through that. I just want to make sure.
All right. So let me see here. If I share application to Officer Simpson, is it all right if I start with 14th, the prior incident?
Yes, that'd be good.
All right, let me see here. Is that visible? Get that plan. All right. And let's see, we've got 25th at 9:58. That multiple windows.
Chairman, I did go ahead and add into the chat the county code that defines domestic animal for you.
Thank you very much. I was trying to find something quickly. I couldn't come up with anything quick.
This is March 25th, the first one, 9:50. And the next one is 9:51. let's see. The last one here. 51.2. Share that here. And that's all of them.
All right, Officer Simpson, do you have anything else to add before we?
No, I don't have anything further at this time.
Okay. Anyone have any other questions for Officer Simpson?
Hello, it's me, Pedro.
Yes, sir. You have a question for Officer Simpson?
Well, is the owner of the chickens here?
Yes. No, we're going to hear from them next, and then if you'd like to hear from them and then ask them some questions, that'd be fine.
Okay, because I just wanted to apologize and talk to them.
Okay. Well, give us 1 second. You'll have your turn here. Let's just let the plaintiff go out and have their side of the story, and then you can ask questions and speak to them after. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
So if there's no questions for Officer Simpson, Ms. Alcamo, if you'd go ahead.
Sure. I'm not sure what. Do I need to say something besides the statement?
No. I mean, if you agree, if you heard officers, he read your statement. If that's fine, if there's anything you'd like to add, feel free. Mr. Schwab, same thing. If there's anything you'd like to add to the statement, I don't know if you heard the statement as it was read, but it was pretty thorough. So if you have anything else you'd like to add, we understand, this is, a terrible thing happened to your pets, and that's terrible, and that's what we're here for today. So if, like I said, if there's anything you'd like to add to the statement, feel free. Now's the time to do it.
No, thank you.
Mr. Schwab, yeah, if you have anything you'd like to add, now's the time.
No, I think it said it all. Thank you.
Okay, so no other questions for the plaintiffs, guys? Okay.
I have one time.
All right, go ahead.
Ms. Alcamo, do your chickens, do you allow them out of the coop?
Yes, we do. They go into the yard. And we've since put up poultry fencing to keep them in the back.
Okay.
I have one question because I'm not sure I understood one of the videos. There's one set of videos that I'm thinking are from the front of the house. Is that correct? Because it looked to me like there was a chicken running near the street. Does that normally happen?
There must be chase them.
Yeah, they were in our front yard. Our front yard is probably, 50 feet wide. And they were in the middle of it, so maybe 25, 30 feet from the street. They occasionally would go in the front yard. Usually they stayed in the back, but we only let them out when we're home, and we would watch them. And if they went towards the front, we would call them back. So had the dog not attacked when I had got up to get my coffee, I would have noticed that they were in the front and called them back. But like I said, we've since got poultry fencing to make sure that they don't go beyond the backyard.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I just have a quick question. Have you had any other threats from any other predators, whether it be hawks or fox in the area, anything like that?
No, we have hawks that live in the backwoods, but they've never made any attempts on the chickens. They're pretty small hawks, so I think they might be too little, but no. And we've lived in this house for 9 years, and I think we've only ever had a dog in our yard once, and it was a small, like Havanese type dog. So this was highly unusual.
We do have a fox in the backwoods, but we haven't seen him probably in about 2 years. So we have a cat as well, and he kind of keeps the fox away, as crazy as this sounds. But we were concerned about it, but we haven't seen any predators trying to get in the coop. Nor have we seen any come out trying to get at the chickens before. So we we kind of did not think that we would lose some to a dog. We kind of thought that maybe eventually a hawk would get one, but so far we have been lucky in that respect.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, Mr. Guzman, you feel free to speak. Tell your side of the story. If you have, if you have anything you want to say to the Ms. Alcamo or Mr. Schwab, now would be the time.
Well, when this incident happened, I was informed that my dog was missing because I was inside helping my little siblings with their Zoom class because they be doing online classes. And I was outside with my dog and my little brother, and we put him inside this cage. But I'm not sure because sometimes the other dog be coming over, a dog be coming over sometimes through the backyard. On the back of my house, part of my fence is not all the way fenced. Sometimes another dog be coming in, and I guess when I went back inside, I don't know if how my dog ended up like going around the fence, like a picket fence type thing. And when I came back out like 5-10 minutes later, I seen that my dog wasn't there. And I told my brothers and my siblings have they seen them. They said no, they've been in class the whole time because I was helping my other little siblings. And well, that's when I got in my vehicle, started looking around, drove down the street because this is one neighbor that has also dogs and cats that gets along with the neighbors. Migo, he's not a vicious like animal to like other people and stuff like that. He would always go to their house and be like, well, be a good dog. He wouldn't do nothing like terrible or nothing like that. So I called them and I even went to their house and they said no, they haven't seen Migo, but if they see him, they're gonna keep him tagged. And I was looking around from Spencer Road to Lincoln Road and all the streets, and that's when I ended up calling the pound and they said that it might have gotten, but they don't know everything because of COVID. The transfer takes longer, so they couldn't tell me right away what has happened. Till a couple hours later, when I received a phone call from the officer saying what happened in the incident and what had occurred. But I would also, to be honest, I would really like to apologize, to be honest, because this is something that Migo would never actually, to be honest, have done. He's not this type of animal. He'd always be outside in the front yard, in the backyard, and kids always pass by and pet him. He always a nice animal. You can even ask the neighbors that they have some other dogs, and they always play with them, even their younger kids. There's not no like normal type behavior. He's actually a good dog. To be honest, I don't know why he would do this. I would really like to apologize. Is like if it's possible. I mean, I don't know if it would be possible because I know that with your pets there were something in your heart, but I don't know if like paying damages or something like that would help. But I would really like to apologize for that because, like I said, this is not really something normal that would happen.
All right, Mr. Guzman and Flores, are you totally aware of the situation, what's going on? Are you under the vicious order, you're aware of the consequences of this order, correct?
The vicious order, it basically saying that in the vicious order that you can't have the dog.
It's not that you can't have the dogs, that the dogs committed an act that warrants the dog to be put under, a higher set of, basically potentially losing the dog's life. So, you're here today to make a case for your dog. And I just want to make sure you fully understand, what you're here for and what you're asking for here today.
Yeah, I'm informed, but I was just a little confused about the vicious attack because I was kind of confused on what would actually happen because I was informed that vicious order, that's something different than a minor incident.
All right. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Flores?
Yeah, I'm not comfortable that Mr. Flores understands what the ultimate disposition here could be. And I think we need to spell it out for him that this dog could be euthanized as a result of this. And I want to make that abundantly clear, Mr. Flores, if the dog is found to be a vicious dog, you understand that do you understand that the dog can be euthanized? Meaning the dog would be put to sleep, his life would be ended.
To be honest, I wasn't really. I mean, I kind of understood that might have happened, but to be honest, since I would understand if that happened to like maybe if the dog bit like a kid or like I would understand that, but I was not informed that because of damaging another pet that it would result in that putting them down. Because I was informed that if the vicious order went down, it would be just like like more like more restrictions on the dog, like having collars and metal brackets for his mouth and stuff like that, and bigger fencing and stuff like that. But to be honest, I wasn't really thinking that the dog would be put down.
A question, Mr. Guzman. Do you
Well,
have the do you have the for lack of a better term, do you have the power to alter your property to conform with any restrictions for your dog's movement?
yes, yes, I can. After the incident, everything happened. I told my parents. I told them what happened and everything. We would have to fence around everything and keep everything more secure. We already bought the supplies and everything just in case Migo would come back. It's all in my backyard, out of the wood, and
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Flores, do your parents own the home where the dog resides?
it's all well right now. It's a rental. We it's a rental, but the guy, since we've been living in this house for more than 7 years, he's been thinking he might just sell it to us. But for right now, it's a rental.
Is the landlord aware of this incident?
I'm not sure. To be honest, I do not think so.
Okay, thank you.
I have some questions. Let's see, Mr. Flores, how old is Migo?
Migo is right now. He's 8 months old. Well, in a couple of days, he should be 9 months.
Where did you get him?
I got him from my friend who she had breeded Siberian Huskies and she was selling puppies.
Okay.
So I got one as a birthday present for my little sister.
So you've had him for how long?
I had him for, well, ever since a baby, ever since he's about like, probably, maybe, I basically had him like, when I got him, he was like maybe like a month old. So I guess you could say I had him like for like 7 months,
Okay.
six,
And have
seven
you
months.
had, thank you. Have you had any training for him? Have you enrolled in any training with Migo?
Not in like stores or purchasing like training, but I do normally train it myself because back then I would normally train my family's pit bulls, and we would that's something we would like always do, like train dogs and stuff. And since I can actually train dogs, I would normally train Migo like to do this, to do that, or like if he sees like kids and like to be aware and not to do the consequences that would happen and stuff like that. But we would train him though. We wouldn't just not leave him around, do whatever he wants. We would train him. He would be potty trained. He would be like a basically trained dog.
And so Migo had gotten out of the yard once before, at least once before. And did you do it? Did you take any measures to try to keep him from escaping the yard again?
Yes, because the first time when I was informed that he has escaped the yard, I was at work. One of my neighbors have called me and told me that Migo was in the yard. But after that incident, I have bought wiring and this other type of fence to build it. But since he kept getting older, and since when we would play with him and train him, we would do jumping things, and we would train him to jump. And leading to that, the fence wasn't, I guess, big enough, so he would jump over it. And so, like after all of that, the whole incident happened. That's when we knew like we need wood, like some big wood fence. So we ended up buying all the supplies and for everything for just in case if he came back. But yeah, we have after the whole incidents happened, we have like keeping more secured, have him on the leash, having more security and stuff like that.
How far is your house from the house where he was where he injured these chickens?
Well, my house is on the corner, and their house is in front of us on the other corner. So maybe like about Mm, a couple yards, to be honest.
Okay.
It's literally across the street, but maybe like a couple feet, like a couple 100 feet away.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Flores?
Mr. Schwab has his hand raised.
Yeah, Mr. Schwab, if you have something you'd like to say, please go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Flores, I'd like to understand. You mentioned before that your dog is allowed to go to your neighbors, and I'm trying to understand like how that works. If you have a fence set up now, how can the dogs like go meet each other at the neighbors? Like, are they attached
We would
to
meet
each
each other because oh, sorry to cut you off, but the fencing, when we have it, it was kind of like a wire fence ring, so you could kind of like slide it open. And since his dogs, he has two black dogs, his dogs would come out and just go inside my yard, like because my dog, they can just go inside the yard because it's like a spacious yard. So the two dogs would just go inside here, and I would open the wire fence a little bit enough for me and Migo to pass by, and I would play with, and they would play together.
So you're basically both your neighbor's property and your property are fenced in, and you have a gate between your property and their property?
No, my all right. So my house is all fenced in, except all the way in the back. There's a big opening, enough for maybe a truck and a car to drive in and like have like a driveway, like park and stuff like that. But since when we first moved here, it was always like that. Oh, that part of the fence was not there. It's already like, and like I told you, enough space for like a car to park, and there's gravel. So I guess that used to be where cars used to park. So that's like an open space. That's how his dogs would get to like my yard, because my neighbors, they live right behind me. And since like I told you, there's no fence in between us. It's like an open area. His dogs sometimes be coming over.
So in that sense, their dogs could go out as well wherever they want to if they wouldn't stay on the property, right?
Yeah. And the dogs could go out, but normally his dogs, they wouldn't like go anywhere. They would mostly stay around the area.
Okay, thank you.
Mm.
Mr. Flores, I have another question. When you were aware that your neighbors had chickens?
I was aware of it, yes, because when I would sometimes sleep or pass by, I would hear chickens, but I was not really aware like which house it was. I just knew that around that area, like someone had like chickens or hens or something like that.
And I'm sorry, I may have missed this in the testimony, but were you aware that he had been chasing the chickens earlier in March?
I was aware of it, but like I was saying, I went inside my house after I was done playing with Migo. 10 minutes later, I came out, he wasn't there, and that's when I started looking around and searching and calling my neighbors and going to my neighbor's house and telling them if Migo has been there, and going to other people's houses, knocking on people's door if they seen a missing dog. And I also posted it on the Nextdoor app to post it on, see if anyone's seen a missing dog. That's when I decided to call the pound, and they told me they're informing me if they have anything of a husky. That's when a couple hours later throughout the day, I've gotten a phone call and they told me of the incident that occurred.
That was the second time. What about the first time?
The first time.
The first time.
You might have missed it in the testimony, sir, but there was actually a time previous back in March where your dog was in the yard again. He didn't kill any chickens that day, but he was definitely chasing them around, and we saw video to that point.
Then I think so, because like I said, part of my fence is kind of open, so my dog would go to my other neighbor's house, but not the one where the incident happened. But I have another neighbor in the back who Migo would go and play with them. But
okay, that's all. It doesn't sound like you were aware that he had been in their yard once before.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Nah, I might have gotten a phone call, but like I said, since my dog sometimes be playing with it, I be getting phone calls from my other neighbor.
Okay, thank you.
Does anyone have any more questions before we deliberate?
I have one.
Ms. Alcamo, go ahead.
It sounds like the landlord is not aware yet of the situation. Have you ever asked the landlord previously about closing that opening in the fence, or have they ever approved you to build any other structures like fencing on the property?
Oh yes, yeah, we have told them, but I'm gonna tell the landlord of the incident that happened, but we have told them before that we would have wanted to like finish the fence and actually have it covered, because sometimes since we also have little kids, siblings, and playing around, we don't want people coming in or them running out loose, because it literally like the fence where it's open is like to the street. That's how it was possible for me to get out to the street. But we have told the landlord, can we like finish the fencing? But we will finish it though. We will finish it. I told like I said, we have supplies in the back.
Mr. Flores, I want to be perfectly just straight with you here. So we're here talking about the vicious order. Another option would be to drop this to a dangerous order. In that dangerous order, if we were to even consider it, a fencing requirement, it would have to be done. It would have to be a 6-foot stockade fence. It would have to, and or a kennel would have to be installed. All of that would have to be approved ahead of time by your landlord. The fact that your landlord is not fully aware of this situation and what's going on is definitely a concern for all of us, I'm sure. You know, that's kind of where we are right now. I mean, in this situation, we would hope that someone comes to the table here aware of all these things and somewhat, understand what the potential is here, because it is such a grave situation for your dog. So I just want to make sure that you're aware that, we're getting ready to deliberate here and you're not going to have any more comment to put out here. But I mean, it seems as if you were not totally aware of the potential consequences here. And I just want to make sure that you fully grasp that, even, the person whose animals your dog harmed is here trying to make sure that if we were to decide the other way, that we have to make sure that other people's, animals protected here. I mean, that's what we're here for. And if you're, it seems like you're very, very cavalier, very nonchalant about the fact that your dog's off its property. And that's something that definitely cannot happen. So, this is something that, I just want to make sure you're fully aware of this, because we're getting ready to deliberate. I want to make sure you understand that that's where these questions are coming from. And if I missed anything, you guys feel free to jump in here. But I'm going to go ahead and ask more questions. Officer Simpson, if you have anything you'd like to add before we deliberate.
Yeah, I'd just like to ask Mr. Flores. Mr. Flores, the day on the 1st, April 1st, you did sign the vicious order. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and I explained it to you, and it says yes, and it says here the agency retains permanent custody, will make the appropriate disposition of the animal in accordance with 12404 of Anne Arundel County Code. Now that was on the vicious order, which you received a copy. Also, it says here in your appeal, you understand you're actually appealing. It says you're not talking about stipulations. You're not talking about, I'd like to get my dog back if I put up a fence or if I go with any other kind of restrictions. It says because you would like to receive your dog back and prove he's a good dog and not vicious. Is that not what you wrote in your appeal?
Yes, certainly I wrote that, but that doesn't mean like take it the wrong way. Like when I received them, of course I was gonna fence the whole thing, area and everything, put in like under more restrictions to have him around. And like I told you, after the whole incident, I had bought the supplies and everything in my backyard just in case if he did come back. Because I was informed when you told me that if I did receive him, like if the vicious order went down, you did tell me that I would have to be like fence restriction and more like a little bit like, I guess you could say more like a little more like more restrictions for the dog. So like I told you, after all that, I ended up buying supplies and everything. But like if I did receive him back, I wouldn't just receive him just to just be with him. I would like the dog would be really trained. The dog would not go out. Everything would be fenced out. And to be honest, like I said, I would really like if there's any like damages I could maybe pay to the owner. I don't know if that would help.
But Mr. Flores, when I explained to you the vicious order, and if the vicious order was held up, at any time did I tell you that you would be getting your dog back?
No, you told me what would happen. You just told me, well, you explained to me what the vicious order was. But
Exactly.
you did not inform me that, oh yeah, you're getting your dog back for sure.
Thank you. I appreciate it. That's all I have.
No, I get that. And Officer Arundel, we weren't trying to insinuate that you didn't explain it properly or anything like that. It just based on the conversation we're having here now, I just wanted to just verify. So anyone else with anything before we deliberate?
Yeah.
Schwab's hand is raised.
Okay, yeah, Mr. Schwab, if your hand's still up, I don't know if that was still up from before. Feel free to add something, Mr. Schwab.
Yeah, I would like to say something. You know, Mr. Flores, our goal here for me and my girlfriend is not to have the dog put down. We understand he's a husky. We understand he thinks he sees a bird. He's trying to go after it. He was able to get it. You know, the thing that upsets us is that you seem to be utterly unprepared to have a husky, because everybody knows a husky is going to be a dog that's going to get out unless you have a fence in place. And the fact that you let him just roam around with your neighbors does make us concerned that he's going to come back. So I don't think it's a bad dog. I don't think he's a vicious dog. I don't think he's old enough to be a vicious dog. I think he's a young dog that's untrained, that you as the owner should have taken better measurements to keep the dog at your property. You know, so I feel bad if the dog gets put down, because, you know, the dog is a dog and he likes to chase things, but he should not have the chance to come into our property twice in a row and do this, you know? So I just wanted to point it out. Our goal is not to have the dog put down. Our goal is not to, you know, give you a hard time or anything. We just want you to understand you have a responsibility in owning a dog. And if you have any pit bulls, I'm even more worried than about the husky. I just wanted to say that.
I would like to say something. And no, I don't have pit bulls. The only dog I have right now is a Siberian Husky. But yes, like I said, I really do. That's something I really would not want, having the dog put down. But like I said, we have everything already, like just in case, supplies in case he came back, and he would be good trained. And like I told you, this is not something he would normally do. And you can even ask my neighbors to talk to them like personally if you want to. They would play with their kids and stuff like that, or like with the people. But I know if he came out, he would not go out, because to be honest, if I received him, I would not let the dog go out free roaming and stuff like that. To be honest, because in my case, the only thing that was kind of messing up was the open fencing. But I was training Migo. There was times when I would call him where he would know not to go over. But there would be some times where he would see a little animal, or there would also be a certain amount of times where a little Chihuahua would come up the street, and since my fence is open, he would see the dog and start running around, playing around with Migo. But there were, yeah, like I told you, there would also be a little Chihuahua who would come here and roam around, play with Migo and run around. That's also like a reason why Migo would also get out. But like I said, Migo wasn't always leaving and leaving. He was trained. When he knew when he had to stay in the house, he knew he was party trained. He knew he couldn't do this and do that. But like you said, then he's a dog. He would sometimes if he sees a squirrel, he would chase it, play around with it. But if it gets to a point where like something bad would happen, he knows not to do, like he knows he's not allowed to do that.
I understand your point, and you know, my girlfriend had the state of mind to grab the dog by the collar and get him inside, which he would have not been that unfortunate if I had found him. But and he didn't bite her. He nipped at her, but he didn't bite her. So I don't think he's vicious towards people, anything like that. You know, I also think that he's friendly to other dogs. What I'm saying is that if he sees a bird, he's gonna go get it. You know, now it might be a bird or it might be somebody's pet. What I'm trying to convey to you is he should not have the opportunity to go up himself. It's a whole different thing if you want to walk him. I don't care if you have him on a leash or not, you know. That is something I could understand if he gets away from you and runs over, even if you don't walk him a leash, that could just happen, you know. But if he just escapes from home twice in 2 weeks, you know, that should not happen if it's a husky. And that's what I want you to understand, that, you know, we do not want this dog put down. But if we are not comfortable that you can contain this dog and he will come back to you, then we have no other choice but, you know, to let this proceed. We would much rather have the dog come back to you and everything is fine, or it being adopted out to somebody else. But we do not want to have to worry about the dog every time we open up the door in the morning and let our chickens in the run. You know, and he's a dog. He's gonna chase a chicken. You know, it's a bird.
Mhm.
So I don't think that's something you can train him. You just have to contain him.
Yes. Yes. Certainly, because yeah, when that's something like I said, that's something I really do not want. I do not want my dog to be put down. But as if he does come back, he will certainly will not go to your fence and would have no problems. And for my dog going over to your fence or going anywhere around your area, like around your area, like he wouldn't be around your area. Like I was just walking, but he would certainly not. He wouldn't leave the house, or you wouldn't see him in your house anymore. When he comes, like I told you, he's trained. We train him every day. He'll go on like 30 an hour walk every day. He's always trained, always goes outside. But certainly when he does come out, like I said, we are having everything built and everything. We have everything ready just in case. And I'm gonna train him more, to be honest. Like I told you, he is trained right now. You gotta tell him to sit, all the basic things, follow me. You know, all the basic things a dog would train you at a dog school and stuff like that. He does. He is really. Excuse me,
Mr. Guzman. I'd just like to address both of you guys. When we deliberate, and just so everybody's on the same page, when we deliberate, um, we're not in the business of an eye for an eye. Okay, the commission does not do that. That is not to say that we also have an obligation not to ever have this occur again. So in order to get your dog back, if that is the ruling, there will be a lot of stipulations that you will have to meet before you get your dog back. Officer Simpson or somebody from Animal Control and Care and Commission would probably go out and inspect the property to make sure that everything is in place so that this incident does not occur again. So I just wanted to put that out there so that both Mr. Schwab and Mr. Guzman understands what we're here for today. And Mr. Guzman, there is also the possibility that if you cannot meet those requirements, that the vicious order could stick. So everything, just trying to make it above board.
Mm-hmm.
And I want you guys both to understand that is that these were not just chickens, you know, that these were somebody's pets. We can't have this happening again when we deliberate. And we have, if the majority of the commission agrees, there will be a long list of stipulations that have to be met so that we can protect the public and other people so that this will never happen again. So I just wanted to put that out there so that everybody understands and that we're all on the same page.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I think everybody's squared away. I think we're ready to deliberate, I believe. Anything else from anybody? All right, let's go ahead and deliberate now. I think we've heard about all we need to hear. Case. I haven't heard anything new for a little while, so you know, it's a situation here where, you know, we have a very young dog, and you know, it's obviously, you know, I don't know that this guy fully understands. I don't know if Mr. Flores fully understands the consequences of owning a young dog that has that kind of prey drive. I own a German short-haired pointer, and if he left to his own devices and around a chicken coop, you know, we'd be in a very similar situation. But obviously, we don't let that happen. But you know, before I finish all my thoughts, if anybody would like to go ahead and start, go ahead and start the other way around with Elizabeth this time, and then I'll finish.
Sure. Okay. Tough situation here. Okay, so first I want to say that I've had chickens, and I've lost a chicken to a dog as well as a fox and hawk. So, and I care very much about my chickens as well. And so I can appreciate the perspective of Miss Alcamo and Mr. Swap. They are pets in my household as well. So I can totally understand that. I don't in any way want to diminish the fact that they were loved and cared for very much. So, but having said that, the situation, this is an 8-month-old husky that has drive and went to the house once, chased the chickens, and had a blast. So if you have that kind of experience, you're going to do it again too, if you're allowed. So went back for a second time and got two chickens at least. And the damage, I know how easily it can be to damage the chicken. So it's very extremely unfortunate. But that's what the dog is going to do if it's allowed to do it. I know we heard, I thought Mr. Schwab had a very nice statement. I really appreciate his perspective. He's an extremely reasonable statement. And going back to just the chickens and training. So when you allow a dog to chase things over and over again, it builds drive. It's going to build their drive, build their drive, build their drive. If they get something, it's going to build their satisfaction for that and increase the chances of it occurring again. And that's so if you do not allow that to happen, then you're not going to build that drive just in the same way that you would otherwise. So so dogs actually can be very easily trained not to chase things. So it is more than possible, and not as hard as that may sound. So let's see, 8-month-old dog. Again, as it gets stronger, if it's continued to allow to chase animals, it's again, you're gonna have the same effect, if not, more severe, more chickens. You can see the first time it was playing, second time it definitely escalated. As far as Mr. Flores goes, I don't know that I could say that he was cavalier. I don't know that I would describe that. I hear what you're saying in that, and certainly you want people to really understand that if they continue to let this happen, the consequences are much greater to him, to the dog, Migo, and to the neighbors potentially. I feel like, I felt like I heard in the testimony that he is committed to fencing and understands that it's necessary. It's a very, very unfair situation, and all these cases are just, it's a lose-lose situation regardless. But I cannot go with the vicious order on this one. So.
That's fine. I know it's hard. No one wants to sit here today and see an 8-month-old dog put down. And I.
And the dog is fairly reasonable otherwise. There's no, real incidents of people. If you're grabbed in the middle of a very highly aroused situation like the dog was, and it showed pretty good bite inhibition for towards Ms. Alcamo. So yeah,
I think my thing is, if we can just open a little discussion up here about the fencing issue. I agree that Mr. Flores seems very willing to do the fencing. What I don't understand is how you can show up here today after being, understanding what, as per Officer Simpson, he was explaining what this situation should be, and we don't have a clear, whether the landlord would even allow fencing up or even allow this animal back onto the property. We don't have, in these cases in the past, we've had clear evidence that would even be possible. We just had one last month where the landlord gave permission for that animal to come back. In this case, with this order against it, that may not even be a possibility. So that's where I'm like, it would have been, in my opinion, would have been nice to know that coming in rather than kind of being like, oh, yeah, by the way, this fence needs to be complete. So that's kind of where I see like a little difference there where, if I knew my dog was potentially going to be put down, I would come to the table with a plan, in place, ready to go. Not like I have the equipment, I could put it up. Like the fence is already up, I already have the permission from my owner. That's where I'd be.
Yeah. I guess just since there were open discussion about it too, like you said, I guess that's the part where like when when they're served a vicious order, you know, I don't know if they're outlined. Are they given, because they're served a different order, are they even given the information? I don't know if that's something they can look up online, but are they even given the information of what compliance would be if we were to rule at a lesser charge and hope for survival of this animal? So anyway, that's, you know, coming prepared. When are they even given the information of what the lesser charges would, what compliance would even look like? I don't know if that's done for them and if they're coming to the table prepared for that. But you know, so
I mean, that's the thing, is understanding that. I agree that maybe they're not, maybe it's not presented that way. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. I didn't read exactly, you know, I mean, if it were me, presented it to me and I had a vicious order, I would look into what was going to happen otherwise, potentially. And even if I wasn't, if I knew that my dog was running off and killing chickens, the very first thing I would do is make sure that dog couldn't run off. And that, to this point, hasn't happened. And that's, and to you know, the chickens owners, you know, they don't want to see this dog put down. I don't think any of us want to, but you can clearly see that they're very concerned that, you know, maybe the term cavalier wasn't, you know, appropriate, but you know, my dog just gets out and goes out and plays down the street. It just gets out and it walks down and hangs out with these kids. It sees a squirrel, it jumps a fence. I mean, it's very like, this just happens. These are things that just happen. There's no, I don't hear any thought behind, we need to stop that round. That should not happen. We shouldn't be down, that dog shouldn't be down the street without my knowledge. That's where I see it.
I mean, I think there was some testimony to that, but I understand where you're coming from and I understand what you heard. You know, I mean, I did hear some commitment to the fence and some acknowledgement of the situation, although maybe he didn't state it quite like we would want to hear it, but I think there was something there. Jennifer, did you want to say something?
Well, I just, in the file is a copy of Mr. Flores' driver's license. And from what I can see, I mean, he's a 19-year-old kid. So I'm not sure, like you said, that this is so much cavalier as it really is youth and not understanding. And I got the impression that some of it is also situational in the fact that there's other dogs in the neighborhood that sort of come and go as they please. So, you know, I'm not sure that the average person, especially someone so young, understands what the requirements are. I'm not excusing that because you should, obviously, if you are a dog owner. But I just don't know that, you know, there's no requirement that when a breeder sells a dog to somebody that they pass a test, okay, just like becoming a parent. You know, I'm not sure what he understood. There is no doubt in my mind. I don't think that young man understood that his dog could be ordered euthanized. And the term appropriate disposition that's included in that letter, I don't think clearly conveys that.
Well, that actually brings, I'm sorry to interrupt, but that it reminds me of something that I forgot about to bring up earlier. But the fact that he's 19 years old, can he even make these decisions about the fence if his parents are the one that rent the property in the first place? I mean, that's another thing that I want to know about.
Well, I think, yeah, I don't even know who the lease is with. And we don't know, you know, I'm assuming that the lease for the property, for the rental is with his parents. But you know, it sounds like he is a caretaker as well. He was helping siblings with virtual learning. But the other piece, I guess something that struck me is this just seemed like such a perfect storm because, and I don't mean in any way to diminish the heartbreak that these folks suffered, because you know, no matter what kind of animal it is, it's devastating to lose it. But it bothered me to see the chickens running by the road because they clearly weren't fenced in their own yard, and now we're talking about a young dog that, wow, talk about temptation. I mean, I don't mean to sound like I'm blaming the victim because I'm not, but when it comes to animals, I mean, if my dogs are always contained and fenced and have never been out large at all, ever. But boy, if there was a chicken running right along the road, I can't guarantee that I'd be able to stop that. And, you know, my breeds don't have that prey drive. So I kind of feel like in that respect, this poor dog didn't stand a chance. You know, he wasn't properly fenced and he was sort of teased, tormented a little bit because, I mean, like they said, these chickens were running, some of them were running loose in the yard. I don't know that this particular gentleman would be able to comply with everything required to keep the dog, but correct me if I'm wrong. If we reduce the order, that at least enables the dog for potential adoption to someone else. Is that correct? No. So even if we reduce the order, if this gentleman can't comply, this dog is going to be euthanized?
No, I think that, I mean, we can hear from.
I think if we reduce the order, this is exactly pretty much what happened last month. If we reduce the order and he's not able to comply with the order, then the animal will then be remanded back to animal control. They would not be able to,
adopt it
back under a vicious order. They wouldn't be able to adopt it, and then it would be
right.
That's essentially where we're at. And I don't mind setting that. I mean, it's almost like we're setting a precedent with that. I always want to give someone the benefit of the doubt. If they can comply to an order, and that dog stays within those fences, problem solved, right? I mean, we're not pulling a dog down. We're putting this guy's feet to the fire that he has to take care of this dog. But if he's not willing to take care of it, then, then obviously it's going to sit there. The issue then becomes, it's a way to get around this vicious order every time. I mean, I guess there's always a reason just to uphold it straight off the bat. But I'm in favor of doing that in a situation where someone's willing to try to make a better life for the dog and for everybody. But we can't have an open-ended time frame. Just like last month, we put a time frame on it. So I think that would be something to discuss.
I think we extended it. We could extend it in this particular case, if that would be everybody's preference, to lower. Obviously, I'm not in favor of euthanizing this puppy. Is basically what it is, and that in no way minimizes the effect of the complainant with the pet chickens. I'm really torn on this, but I think that the owner might not be able to articulate himself very well. However, I do see that he does care about this dog. And I think that given the opportunity, that he, his parents, if they own the property, will make every effort to comply. Obviously, the dog is still impounded, right? So in order to get it back, he would have to comply. I just think that the normal time frame perhaps should be extended a little bit longer, being that the fact that the landlord doesn't know. Give them time. I think there was a comment made that there was some talk about the landlord selling the house to his parents or whatever. But I do agree with the rest of the commission that I believe that given the opportunity, that I think that the conditions would be met.
I just let you know, I'm looking at last month's minutes, and just to be specific, in the vicious order last month, we amended the 10-day compliance time to a 45-day compliance time. And in that case, we made the fence mandatory. We didn't give them an option for a kennel. So I know, Elizabeth, you weren't here last month, but that's kind of how we adjudicated the one last time around. It was not unsimilar. It was the dog went after a cat, not chickens last month, but it's a very similar type situation. An older dog last time, though. This is obviously a much younger dog. So, I mean, I'm in favor of doing that. That puts the ball in the owner's court, and it shows how willing they are to comply with the situation. It gives them time to get with the landlord and figure out something. And in the long run, I feel like that could be appropriate. So,
I agree. I mean, I understand.
To go back to the owners of the chickens, I'm sorry.
No, sorry.
They don't want to see the dog put down either. I mean, if we can make a situation where, where the dog has a chance, I mean, at least the dog's given a chance at that point. So, Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Stephanie.
Oh, I was just gonna agree with you in that. You know, the dog did show bite inhibition in an escalated situation. Didn't break skin on a human. It's a puppy, and the loss of life is the reason why we're here in a vicious order. But I think that we're all trying to give the owner and the dog, an 8-month-old puppy, a chance to you know, make it right by making sure this never happens again. And so like Ed had said, we're not here life for life. That's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to set up public safety and the owners and the pets for safety and success. But I'd be willing to try to give this dog and this owner a chance. I mean, we have a lot of questions of whether that would even happen, but that's our next step. If we put a dangerous order in place and they comply, that's giving them a chance is kind of where I stand on that.
Didn't mean to interrupt you, Tom, but I had said before the same thing Jennifer inquired about was, you know, if this owner can't comply, can it be adopted out? Maybe Robin can lobby to change the rules or the laws on that down the road, because, you know, nobody wants to see a dog like in this situation euthanized.
Because sometimes, to your point, it's the unfit owner. He's a young 19-year-old kid. I mean, that animals will be animals, and with proper environment and proper training, maybe they could have a chance at life. But you know, it's a lot of times it's our fault, you know, that we don't set these animals up for success. So exactly to your point, I mean, what happens when we can't get a responsible owner? You know, and then I don't know if we can come to that conclusion today on like how this goes forward for animals that need more structure. And then if the owner can't be a responsible owner, what happens to this dog? They can't be adopted out to someone that can supply all the structure that this animal needs. So yeah, that's a tough one. And I guess just today we're here to try to, I am here to try to give this dog and this very young owner the chance to comply and be a responsible owner. And I guess we'll see what happens after that. But that would be my hope, is that he complies with all the fencing requirements and that this never happens again.
So before I ask for a motion, then I think we're all kind of on the same page here. As with last month, you know, I think the 45-day compliance time seems appropriate. But to the fencing requirement, I mean, I would say that if we're going to drop this to a dangerous order, we have to have all stipulations in place. There are young kids in the house too. So, I mean, you know, obviously I don't think there's any issue with young kids in the house, but, you know, nobody under the age of 18 should be walking the dog. So I don't know if that's a standard thing that's in there, but I think that needs to be added if it's not standard. I got to go back and look at the standard one here real quick. But then the fencing requirement, you know, last month, one of the issues with those dogs is they were getting out and running, and we didn't trust that they were going to, you know, take the dog right into a kennel. This situation, should we you know, require the fence be the end all be all here? Are we okay with a kennel?
I feel like the fence is more appropriate for an 8-month-old puppy that has a full life ahead of it, that its only activity would be in a kennel when it's outside. If it's fenced, it could have more space. He says it is a spacious yard where this dog could actually run and play. I guess it could do that muzzled in their own yard, but you know, if they're there anyway, I would say that, you know, a fence to me seems like the solution, and that the kennel may not be.
I agree. I think
a long-term plan, you know,
given the situation, I would assume that looking at the two options, if it is a spacious yard, the kennel may be monetarily easier for him to comply with. But I agree with you that for the health of the dog and the situation we're in, you know, and just what we've, you know, like you said, it's a young owner, making sure that he's compliant. It's easier to open the door into a yard that's fenced than it is to walk the dog outside on a cold day when it's snowing and put a dog in the kennel to use the bathroom or something. So I'd be of the opinion to hold, you know, to make the fence a requirement and drop the kennel as an option.
I agree. I think that maybe is a long-term plan.
Okay. All right. So with that in mind, if someone wants to make a motion and we'll go from there.
I move to reduce the vicious order for Amigo to a dangerous order, and the stipulation of fencing be upheld versus a kennel, and then extending the compliance time from 10 days to 45 days.
I'll second.
All in favor? Okay. It's unanimous. Thank you, guys. I know that's a tough one. Nobody likes dealing with that on a Monday morning. I know it's a tough one. Hopefully this guy gives his dog a chance.
Thanks. I hope so too.
Does anybody need a break or anything? A 5-minute break before we jump into this last case? Or are we just going to jump right in?
I could use 5 minutes, please.
Yeah, I could use 5 minutes too. I need to use the restroom.
Okay. You give us 5 minutes, Phil, and we'll call the next one. Thank you. right, guys, waiting on Stephanie, and then we'll get back to it. Just give me 1 second, guys. Okay, Phil, if you're ready, you can call the next case.
Thank you kindly. The next case would be Animal Care and Control versus Melinda Griffith for the appeal of potentially dangerous order for Maverick. All parties who have an interest in this case who wish to testify may now come forward to take the oath. If you would please utilize Zoom's raise hand feature, I'll get you added in one by one. We'll get you sworn in just a moment. Officer Simpson, if you want to state your name and address for the record.
Officer Simpson, 411 Maxwell Fry Road, Millersville, Maryland, 21108.
Thank you kindly. Hang out for just 1 second. Let's see, we got a Wayne here. Can you hear me, sir?
Wayne Silate, 105 Glen Road, Glenburnie, Maryland, 21060.
Thank you kindly. All right, and that's all that I see here. Miss Griffith, it looks like, has sent an email stating that she is requesting postponement. Normally, we need that 5 business days ahead of time, or for the defendant to appear to make that request. So at this point, it's up to the commissioners whether or not to grant that. That's, I believe, usually how it's handled.
I mean, I'd be of the opinion that she, I agree with Phil. She should at least shown up here and asked for that specifically, or it should have been dealt with ahead of time. Any other opinion there?
I have a question. I had asked, before we got started this morning, I had asked about the response to emails, because in the file I'm seeing, I see emails from the defendants, and it looks like they're sort of taken out of context, like there may or may not have been replies. because it seems like sometimes they're responding to something, but I don't see those any answers that may have come back from them. And I guess the reason I'm mentioning that is because this is apparently a renter and somebody that had, I think, may or may not have had employment issues, and she mentioned in one of the emails the timing for the hearing, meaning does she just come and sit and wait for several hours, which at this point, that woman, if she had been here, she would have been waiting almost 3 hours to be heard, and whether or not that time could be narrowed down so that she wasn't missing so much work. So while I as an attorney, I'm all about procedure. And if she, if it's hard and fast that she had to have done something by a certain time to get a postponement, then so be it. But, this is a unique time right now with COVID, and I would certainly hate for anyone's employment to be in jeopardy because they had to wait, not knowing when the case would be heard. And I understand that it would be the same way if it were in actual court. If we were in district or circuit, we do this like a cattle call and have folks wait. But I would be inclined just to be a little sympathetic because I would hate for someone, obviously if she's out of work, she can't take care of the dog or put in any kind of adhere by any conditions. So anyway, that's my 2 cents.
I mean, we can put it to a vote, I guess. If y'all want to talk about it, we can talk about it. We can just put it to a vote. I'm fine either way.
Well, I think it would be unfair to the complainant. I mean, the complainant's here. And the defendant in this particular case had ample time. What's the date on the order?
Notices for the hearing were sent out April 19th.
And, I do want to say that we have postponed it at this point in the past. So unless we want to discuss this, I just wanted to point that out, that we have done that before. And yeah, that's all.
Well, Gus, go ahead.
From what I see here in the case file, I believe that if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the animal is back with the owner and the owner has complied with the PDO.
No. No, that's not correct. We have custody of the dog right now.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm looking at the wrong one.
One of the owner's emails actually commented that she had not even been able to secure a visit with the animal since February. But I also recalled reading her concern over narrowing down the time frame for employment purposes. And if you give me a minute, I'm sure I can find the email.
I can offer.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I can offer a suggestion to the board. I mean, I could read the case file, and you guys can make your own decision whether you want to hear this or.
No, I think I want to make sure if we're doing this, we're going to do it all the way, or we're not doing it at all today. To your point, I don't. Regardless of what we end up doing here today, I mean, as far as this person's employment and when she can get here and not get here, I mean, the first 2 cases could have gone in 5 minutes and she could have been ready to go right away, or, it could take 2 hours like it took. So there should be no, she should be ready to go. As far as I'm concerned, if we're going to do this today, with the, I don't see personally, I mean, if she's trying to get her dog back, from animal control, why are you going to wait another month? I mean, that's kind of tough too. So, I mean, we could just.
The other thing is that if she needed a smaller window, we could try to make her the first of the morning on our agenda. Yeah. I mean, maybe that would help. I mean, we're all about trying to, see what we can do to get a dog home and be in compliance. And it is strange times, and work can be precarious at this point of, we don't want to jeopardize someone's livelihood. We do want to give them every opportunity. but I do understand that it is an inconvenience to the complaint today, and that they're here, but you know, again, everyone's job situation is different, and if we could maybe, if we do go, you know, grant the delay, maybe we can make her the first of the morning to help her out a little bit.
Well, since we have Mr. Silate here, I mean, would you be able to attend next month? Would we cause you any undue to be first of the morning next month, 9 a.m.? Mr. Silate.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
It depends on what date. I do have some plans coming up. If I could just make a quick statement about what's going on with all this. I do not have a problem.
So, sir, I'd really rather not get into the case. If we're not going to hear the case, I don't want to get into it. I just kind of wanted, if you could make it next month, it would be, I don't know exactly what the date is. Phil, could you?
Do I have the same opportunity to her to deny not showing up for this and then postponing it on my terms? I've been waiting for this for 3 hours. I'm not trying to get upset.
No,
she can take and just dictate to you what time she's going to show up. Do I have the same opportunity?
And I understand where you're coming from, sir.
Yeah, totally. I should completely understand that. I'm sure that's very frustrating for you, and we do acknowledge that. And I totally feel the emotion for you, with you. One thing that everyone has mentioned is that we would attempt to do it the first case of the day of the morning, so that hopefully would help you as well.
Okay. I just want to point out this is why I asked whether or not the responses to emails, because they are not included. Miss Griffith, I think it is, she asked on April 21st what time to for the Zoom meeting, because she couldn't take a whole day off work, and I didn't know that was on April 21st. So I didn't know if anybody had responded to her.
I don't know, Officer Simpson, would you have been the one to respond to that email? Was it sent to him? Who was it sent?
It was sent to
Herbert.
I think Phil has information. He just contacted.
Yep. I just got a hold of Miss Griffith. She says that she just had a recent move. There's address forwarding. She thinks that could be why she didn't receive the notices that were sent out 2 weeks ago. She is dialing in now, so that way she can make the request for postponement in person as is normally requested. And
her reference to that move is in this case, is in the file, because that was mentioned in a couple of these emails as well, which is why I was asking about the response, because I felt like I was only getting a conversation in pieces.
Now, on the bright side, if you do decide to postpone, I know her statement was that she would require a fixed time, or that would be preferable due to, her circumstances. Postponed cases are usually bumped up to the first slot in the next hearing, so it would be 9 a.m. kind of sharp, so that might help with what she's got going on. Just 2 cents there. And she should be popping up momentarily.
Oh.
And thank you, Jennifer, for finding that. It's page 3 of 55 of these talk to owners conversations and things like that. I think that's what you're talking about as well. And to your point, I appreciate you bringing that up, because maybe she was within, I mean, she's dialing in to do it now, but maybe she was within the 5-day request time of trying to narrow this down. And but anyway, I think that's the page that we can reference some conversation there too, to try to.
The actual email is attached as the last page 55 and 55.
Okay, got it. Thank you so much, helping us find where it is.
I have her connected here, but as a listener, and for some reason it won't give me the option to bump her up to speak. It was working fine before for everybody else.
Give it a second. You remember we didn't receive it till the Friday. We kept asking.
They're not reading those emails? You're not muted, Roger, just so you're aware, in case that's pertinent. And Ms. Griffith, yeah, if you can hear me, for some reason it's not letting me bump you up here. I mean, I think I stated a lot of what she was going to say, and she's here. I can see it there. I don't know if that helps at all for her request.
Let me look at this now. Looking at this email here, if her email was sent on the 21st, let me ask Officer Herbert if she's in there, because this email was sent to Officer Herbert. I thought I just saw her on screen, Officer Simpson. I don't see a response to her email. I mean, I understand that there's not a formal, a formal request that she wants to have a postponement, but it definitely does indicate that she may have some problem with showing up today. And that was on April 21st, which is definitely more than 5 days.
I have her appeal letter here. It says received date April 16th, and she wrote down the commission date May 3rd, 2021. That's actually on her appeal letter.
Okay. So, but what about this email on April 21st? That's what I'm asking about. That's what I need to know about, because if she's kind of questioning the time frame, if there's a potential that there's going to be an issue, she's addressing that on April 21st, and there's no shown response to that.
Let me ask Officer Herbert.
That's what that's fine.
Me specifically? No.
Phil, while we're waiting on an answer from Officer Herbert, I have a question. If I guess when these letters go out, 9 o'clock is listed as the time, the start time, regardless, right? It's just 9 o'clock blanket time, and that's it. And that's already on the notice that she gets initially. After she signed the thing that said she'd be here on the 3rd, she got something saying be there at 9 o'clock.
Yes, that's what was sent out on the 19th. And unless there's an increased caseload, then there's the 1 p.m. slot that we haven't had in a while. But yeah, so, 9 a.m.
To her assertion that somehow a move has changed the mail. I mean, she obviously responded with the 3rd, understanding that the 3rd was the day on the 21st. So if it was sent on the 19th, she received something before the 21st. I would assume.
Yes, sir.
And I can advise you on April 7th, 2021, I spoke to her by phone and asked her to return the appeal letter that was sent out on March 2nd. I'm sorry, the order to sign and her appeal letter. On the 7th, 2021, I spoke with her by phone and asked her if she could send that order in as soon as possible to make the May 3rd deadline. I mean, we've got documentation that we've called her numerous times. We even left a 10-day letter because we lost response from her.
All right.
That's not true. I have everything in email. I have everything in email. That is not true. I did not know about the meeting on April 21st. I didn't know about the meeting until May 1st through email by Ms. Herbert. I just moved and I just did a change of email 2 weeks ago.
Ma'am,
I'm not even getting. It's not in my order. Where is it in my order that I had a meeting?
You sent an email, ma'am, to Officer Herbert on Wednesday, April 21st, that you acknowledge that it says what time on the 3rd. So you obviously
that
knew.
Is on April 21st. Correct. It's on April 29th. I said on April 29th. She said it was all on the 29th of April when I found out about the meeting on May 1st. I mean, the meeting on May 3rd. I found out April 29th about the meeting on May 3rd.
Well, regardless, she's on the line right now and requesting.
I have emailed back and forth from Ms. Herbert requesting a time for May 3rd, and I still didn't even get that. I received nothing in the mail yet. My mail is still off because I just did a change of address. I just moved April 1st. So I'm not regularly getting my mail the way I should be. And on top of that, you guys get to use COVID as an excuse for things to be backed up.
All right. Enough. Can you mute her, Phil? Enough.
Yeah, but
I can only remove her.
We're not going to sit here and argue about this. I'm looking at an email from this lady on the 21st. Okay, that's what we're going to look at here. In this email, I'm seeing where it says specifically that basically what I'm being told is that she will not waste her day coming in an entire day to try to get her this order removed. She doesn't want to waste her day to do that. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this to a vote to the commission. Are we going to give her an extension or are we not? So right now, I would like to put it to a vote. We will for an extension. All in favor of an extension? Let me.
Can I just clarify? So
Sure.
if we do allow, she is here. She is presented to request a reschedule, and if she is rescheduled next month, she'd be first of the morning at 9 a.m. Is that correct?
It sounds like that would be correct.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So regardless of emails and things of that nature and when things were communicated, she's here now and requesting it. So I'm
actually, I haven't heard a request. I've heard argumentative everything else.
That's correct. She's here now. Are we able to, if that's what she's requesting, I would like to hear that. So if we could unmute her or allow her to, Ms. Griffith, are you there?
Muted.
She's muted herself, it looks like.
Ms. Griffith, if you'd like to request something right now, we would be happy to hear it. Ms. Griffith. There you go.
Someone muted me. I did not mute myself, and yes, I'd like a reschedule.
Okay, thank you. We've heard your request.
All right, now I'd like to put it to a vote. If we would like to grant her request, if we would like to grant her request to move this to next month, please with your hand.
I didn't hear you.
I'm sorry. I'm asking for a vote. Just a yes or no vote. We're going to ask for yes. We're going to move this to next month. Yes, with a show of hands, yes, we will move this to next month. Okay, well then the yeses have it. We'll move it to next month. So, right. Mr. Salate, you're going to receive another notice as the exact time. We're going to get you at 9 o'clock next month.
I apologize for his time wasted, and I appreciate him being here today.
I am sorry for that, sir.
And hopefully it'll be a little less painful of a wait if they're first at 9 a.m. And I do appreciate him being here all day today.
Do we have the correct address?
So what I'll do is I'll send the next notice out directly to her email.
There you go. That'll work. It'll be time, date stamped, everything. So that's good. All right. So before we finish up here today, I have, we're done with that case. We're done with all cases as far as I can see.
Yes, sir. The last one was postponed.
Yeah, last one was postponed. So I have minutes that we need to approve. Ms. Brienza, just so you're aware, basically Phil has sent me the minutes, which is basically, it shows our votes, basically who voted which way, the time and everything included. I've reviewed everything from 12/7, I believe was the first one. Hold on 1 second.
Yes.
Yeah, from 12/7 of minutes, and then again on 4/5. So for the minutes for 12/7, I just want to get I need someone to give me a motion to approve those minutes.
I move to approve the minutes from, you said December 7th?
Yes, 12/7.
Second.
Got a second from Ed. Did I see a second? All right, All in favor of upholding those minutes? All right. And then again on 4/5, same thing. I received, the minutes here. I reviewed everything. Everything was exactly what we, voted on last week, or last month. So again, if I can have a motion to uphold those minutes.
Make the motion, uphold the minutes.
Can I have a second for last month? All right, all in favor of upholding last month's? Okay. So I guess that leaves us with motion to adjourn, I think. Is that where we are, Phil? There's nothing else?
Yes, sir. If I could just clarify from Ms. Brienza, was that a no or an abstain?
Neither. I just didn't react quick enough. I was here on the 5th, so I approved the minutes. Sorry.
Okay, but on the December 7th, was that an abstain since you weren't here, I guess?
Yeah, I was abstaining because I wasn't here. I wasn't even on the commission.
No worries. I've got that, and we are ready for a motion to adjourn, if that's where you guys are.
Yes, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All right. All in favor? Have a nice month. See you guys next month, 9 a.m. Don't be late. We have a case. We know we have a case 9 o'clock next month. So let's be there.
Thank you,
Phil,
everyone.
Phil, I'll try to get in tomorrow and sign everything.
I appreciate you, sir. I'll see you then.
All right,
Thank you,
guys.
guys.
Good luck.
Good to see you. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Take care. Have a nice Mother's Day, y'all.
You
Thanks.
too.
Thank you all.